Good evening and welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting for Monday, June 13th, 2022. In compliance with Governor Baker and the open meeting laws, we will have some Zoom and in-person meetings. So with that, I will officially open the meeting. Do we have any public comments for anyone? All right, if not, I just want to give you, I want to thank you for coming. I think I see some new faces in the audience. Give you a little rundown on the format that we use. When it comes time for the presentation, in a few minutes, the presenters will make their presentation. The members of the board will be able to interrupt and ask questions for clarification as it goes on. After all of their presentation is completed, if you have questions, hang on to them. The board will throw some more questions out, and when we're satisfied, we will open up the meeting to the audience. You can ask me the questions through the chair, and come up and use the mic and identify yourself. If I cannot answer the questions, I'll ask for help, but all questions will come through the chair. Thank you. Do you have, oops, Jim, do you have some minutes real quick?
We have minutes for April 25th, 2022, and I reviewed them, and I find there was nothing of issue about them.
Okay. Anybody else? Make sure everyone signs in, please, by the way. Any questions, comments on the April 25th?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Make a motion to accept them.
Make a motion to accept minutes as presented for April 25th.
Here, second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you. What about May 16th?
No, they're not done yet.
Okay. Is it close enough?
Sure.
7:05. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, June 13th, 2022, at 7:05 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, and via Zoom on a notice of intent filed by Ron Hoyl, Rockpoint Fund Acquisitions, LLC, to construct a 224,750 square foot warehouse with associated parking, utilities, and drainage at number 2 Washington Street, Assessors Map M001P004. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of a resource area. The application is available for inspection in the Conservation Office. Mr. Buckley.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group, and with me this evening is Frank Spillane from Spillane & Spillane, and we're here representing the applicant, which is Rockpoint Fund and Griffith Properties, LLC. So the property that we're talking about this evening is located at 2 Washington Street, which is on the east side of Route 1. So as you're heading north, it would be on the right, and it's just before you get to the Walpole Town line. It currently contains the Olive and Mint function hall, as well as the Funway outdoor recreation facility. And the facility has been there, at least was started, initially built in 1965. It's about a 30.5 acre parcel of land. And if you can look up here, you can see where we are. It's what's inside the green. And if you want to look at your sheet, your plan set, it's sheet 2 is the existing conditions plan. So you can see how everything sits on the site. The commission actually looked at this site back last November 2021 when we filed an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. so that the commission can go out and delineate the resource areas on the site. And the commission issued an order of resource area delineation in December of last year. So if you could look up here, I'll use my little hand, this portion of the property, then the lighter green, that is bordering vegetated wetland, and that is the only resource area that's on the site. There's an intermittent stream that runs through the middle here that starts over here on the Davis farm, and then comes onto the site, and then moves off to the site, eventually goes off to the northeast underneath Panis Road. I know members who've been on the board for a while are intimately familiar with it. So but you can see our portion of it is this lighter green area. And I'm going to zoom up on it right now because we're going to focus. I'm going to try and zoom up on it. Here we go. Oh, here we go. So let me zoom in on it. So this portion of the site is that portion that we'll be focusing on. The red dots, the light green, of course, is the BVW. The red dots is the 25-foot no disturb zone, which is the local bylaw. And as I move it more to the north, you can see how that fits onto the site. And then the heavy blue is the 100-foot buffer zone line, where the commission has jurisdiction inside that area. So the site, as we talked about or was put in the note, this is the site. It's about a 225,000 square foot warehouse. Everything out front that you see today, all of the parking, all of the lands, all of the buildings, everything will be removed. That's all going away. And what's going to be built is, I'll zoom back out here now, just to talk about it. Coming in off of Route 1, there'll be a single driveway. This is kind of actually you can see, I've left the outline of the building in there so you can see where the building kind of fits today. So this is the south side of the building. This is actually the south entrance today. Be coming up through a driveway, coming into here, it will tee out. There'll be car parking over here to the left, to the west as you're looking at it, and to the right, this is where trucks will be. And then there'll be a driveway all the way around the building. The site's going to be served by utilities from Route 1. They're served by, electric, water, Foxborough water. It's actually served by Walpole Sewer. There is no septic system on the site. It's currently served by sewer and will continue to be served by sewer. Again, I'm going to zoom back in over here, down in this area. So the portion that we want to talk about tonight is this portion here. The site is, at least in my mind, it's a little bit misleading. So when you stand on Route 1 and you look up, yeah, it goes up. But then when you get in the back there, it starts to drop back off toward the wetland. But it actually drops to the front quite a bit. So what we've done here is, one of the things that the commission is, and the Wetlands Protection Act is always focused on, is stormwater. So what we've done is all of the runoff for any of the impervious area that we're going to be building, the building itself, the pavement, the driveway, is going to go into one of two stormwater basins. So this is the larger of the basin, we call this Basin 1, and this is the smaller basin, this is called Basin 2. For point of reference, if you can picture the site, up here, this is the batting cages, and down here, this is the front of the building. So runoff will be captured on here and brought to those two sites through a regular drain system, catch basins, piping into that, and then it's going to be infiltrated into the ground. There'll be no runoff from the site toward Route 1. The reason for that is because the state currently does not allow you to tie into their drain system if you have any alternative. We do have an alternative, which is on-site infiltration. So nothing is going to the rear here. We're not draining anything toward the wetland. Actually, my initial design, I went out here and I did a bunch of test bits along the back here because I'm thinking, it's going to pitch that way. It makes sense to do that. But then when you get into the grading on the site, there's, as I said, it's, at least in my mind, it's very, not disturbing, it's very misleading. There's a 20-foot elevation differential from the front of this building to the back. So we had to try and balance it in order to not bring in too much, take out too much. And the way it worked out is bringing all the runoff to the front. So there's nothing going to the rear of the property toward the wetland. Again, those are the areas that the commission worries about, or their jurisdiction. You can see down here, there's no parking or even grading down in this portion of the site in the buffer zone. When you start coming up here, you can see the blue and Howitt and the gray. That is the area that's going to be altered, as well as a little bit of grading around the outside of it. At its closest point, which is right here, the pavement will be 39 feet from the BVW. And up in this area here, the grading...
Excuse me, Bill.
Go ahead.
Is that all be curbed?
Yes.
You have curbing out throughout?
Yes. It's all curbed, and the way the runoff goes, and there's no grades on this, but if you look at sheets 3, 1, 2, 3, everything's pitched this way. So this is a high point, and there is curbing. And down here, these are catch basins in this area here. So this whole back area drains to the middle, and then it drains off to the north, which is what I was talking about. This area down here, it drains to a catch basin here. Most of this drains to this catch basin, and then that catch basin also connects. The rest of the site drains over to the west through a system, and it eventually goes up here as well. So it's not possible for runoff to leave any of the paved areas to go toward the wetland. So we have about, as I stated, 39 feet from the pavement to the closest point of the wetland, and it's about 30 feet from grading. So that's, we'll be grading within 30 feet, which is outside of the 25-foot no disturb zone. It's not on this sheet right here, but we're doing a stormwater pollution prevention plan, if you look on sheet 6.1 and 6.2 through your small set. And you'll see on the outside, we're showing erosion control barrier there. So it's a combination of the silt sock as well as the orange construction fence. And I need to talk to Jane or the commission to talk about that. The town's stormwater consultant made a recommendation that we should use the black fence.
The what?
The black fence, the
So
plastic,
silt fencing?
the black silt fence.
Instead of or in addition to?
So they wanted the silt sock, I agree, leave the orange fence and the black silt fence, which to me makes no sense. But, we can talk about, I know one of the things you worry about is movement of animals through the area. So, but we can, we're...
We'll keep them out of there when it's a construction area.
That's a good reason too. So that's what we use. We'll be using an erosion control fence anywhere within 100 feet of the wetlands, in addition to other areas where we think we could have erosion leaving the site. And then the rest of the site, any of the area, again, it's outside of the buffer zone, but it's around other portions of the site. You can see we're using orange construction fence in order to limit, to designate the limit of work. So the contractor will know where the limit of is and won't be guessing.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
I know in this weather, we're not thinking about it, but what about snow removal?
Yep. So look on, again, sheet 6.1, there's a snow removal plan on there as well. And what we're doing, we show the areas where snow can be. Actually, I can bring that up. Let me bring it up so I can talk to it. Let me create another share. Share. So this is the sheet right here. We show it. So what we did is, you can see where around the edges here, we showed snow storage. And one of the comments that the consultant made, and I agree with it, they said, we don't want you to put any snow storage within the 100-foot buffer zone. So that area, it doesn't have the same color as the other one, but that area is right in here. You can see this is the buffer zone right here. So this area, we'll remove the snow storage from that, and we'll push it toward the top instead of down that area, in that area there. So, but throughout the site, we've shown snow storage, snow storage. We keep it away from the basins, of course, in order to not damage them. And snow storage here. And then we do a little calculation up here of, how much snow do you got to take off before you've got to move off-site removal, or it's going to melt. So that's how we do that.
So,
We don't, go
Bill,
ahead.
Sorry. You have snow storage listed down in the lower right-hand corner. That you're removing or not using, or you are?
We're going to do, if you look at this, right, I'm going to show it on here, because if I do this, Paul yells at me. But down here,
Yeah,
that's going to be removed, because this is the buffer zone. So we're not going to put it in
but you
there.
are going to put it up there.
Yes, this will be all outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
But when you say snow storage, snow storage,
Yeah.
7,400 feet, is that where you would actually be dumping it?
No, where the hatch is.
Okay.
Where the red hatch is, so that snow storage is for this red hatch. And then anywhere where there's red hatching, like up here.
Gotcha,
So
okay.
see that, and then over here. We just pick the areas where we think it's logical for them to push,
And that's off of the paved area?
yes.
Do they expect to use all the parking spaces where you could store all the snow in the back parking spaces and let it drain off through the system?
We could, I don't know if they plan on doing it or not.
There seems to be a lot of parking spots.
Yeah, there's 197 car spaces and 121 truck storage areas in the back there. So, we don't know if they're going to use them all. If it's successful, they will. If it's not, they won't. And then they could store on top.
Those for tractor trailers. Okay, that's different than parking the cars.
The cars are on the west side,
Right.
so they're over here. They're here and here. That was actually one of the design elements that we talked with our client with, because this would be the most area that's most annoying if you were a neighbor, so we're trying to keep it pushed away from the residential areas. So cars will park over to the west side, the left side, as you're looking at that plan, and the south side. Let me go back to this again. Go find it. In our notice of intent, we have a construction sequence. It's very generic, as it, almost always is. We talk about cutting the trees, but don't grub it, install erosion control, stump and grub, demo of structures, then you start the actual site work, bring it to subgrade, install the utilities, construct the building, pave the base, landscaping, and top. And that will be refined when a contractor is actually picked and we bring somebody on board. In your notice of intent in the stormwater report, there's an appendix for a stormwater pollution prevention plan. And it's a draft that will be refined once the contractor comes on board. He's required to keep it on site. He's required to retain the paperwork. And we have to file that not just with the commission and the planning board, it also goes to the EPA, because we have to also file for a, they call it a NIPDES permit, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, NIPDES permit, it's called the Construction General Permit. So that gets filed with them, and everybody gets to look at the stuff if they come by and check it out. I think that's it, Mr. Chairman. If there's any questions? I'm sorry, we have not received we don't have a
File number.
DP number.
Yeah, okay,
So we won't be asking for it to be closed tonight.
okay.
Bill, can you tell us what, in general, what type of soils we're dealing with during the open phase of construction and, torrential rains and things like that?
Yeah. So it's not in, it's in the stormwater report. If you look, I know you don't have it, everybody has it, I only gave you 2 copies of it.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of, for the most part, A and B soils. So Merrimack, Sudbury, Paxton, Urban, and Walpole. Urban, they don't give a classification, as you know, because they don't know, but I know, because I've done some digging up here, that it's all A and B soils, so which means for the, A and B is good. A is like sand, B is not quite as good as sand, D is muck. So A and B soils are what we're looking at for the most part up in this area.
Okay.
Becca, anything? Still thinking.
I'm still processing it.
Okay. Jane, any comments?
Not really. There aren't going to be any retaining walls or anything? You're just going to move everything and,
There's one retaining wall down by the, in this area right here.
but nothing near the wetlands, huh?
No,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's very little grading. We were just trying to balance as best, and it just worked that way.
Good.
And that's why there's really no basins or anything down in that area. 'Cause
I like that.
Yeah, because if we were going to do something like that, we would have been filling that in order to pitch it. So it just worked better
No, this is great.
to not fight the grade and let it drain toward Route 1.
So the pitch of the big driveway as it goes to, so the south side of it, if that's where it's crashing, is that still pitching back toward the wetland, or is that level, or is it pitching toward Route 1?
Right up here,
Nope, so south side of the big parking lot, where the trucks are?
over here.
Yeah, so that edge over there,
All along.
that level there.
This whole edge is pretty much the same grade, and it,
Looks like it's right around 272. when
And
I
it
can
goes to the
tell from-
middle.
From the bank, okay. So that all that stuff is then going to be catch, you're going to have piping underneath, and is it going to go under the parking lot? It's going to divert it around and then to the catch basin? How does that?
it goes right through it's going to sheet flow from the parking lot into the middle of the parking lot.
Right.
And then it goes into a couple of manholes, double catch basins.
Now, I want to ask an obvious conservation comment. Is there any way to make it a little smaller to get it out of the 100-foot? I mean, can we do that?
Good try.
Well, we might as well ask, you know.
I think we'd like to move forward with this design.
Okay.
That small section that is in the buffer zone, what's the vegetation like that's there now? Is it large trees? Is it?
I think I could tell
Hey,
her.
Jane.
When I went out on site to review the delineation, Lauren was really conservative. And so if you went out there right now, it might not even look like a wetland to you. It's the old, BVW because of the soils and occasional plants. But a lot of that area in the back has been disturbed, and it's not remarkable.
So it's not large, old-growth trees back there, it's just shrub stuff?
No, there have been stories that all the trees were removed several years ago, just plowed under, but I don't know if that's true. But there are some here and there, but I think they're probably more than 100 feet away, in the 100-foot buffer anyway. Seems to me that area was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like a little early successional, and she had connected places that she knows her stuff really well, but she was nicely conservative, in my opinion.
Fired.
Did you say finally?
No, fire.
Oh, fire her.
So you said it's basically 40 feet is the closest spot, that pinch point where you're showing it gets close. It's about 40 feet.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've walked back there, and I know it looks like it's been disturbed before.
You can walk, I've
been back there.
We marked the building. If you decide you want to do a site walk, it's very thick back there now. But we've marked the building, not just the corners, we marked along the outside of it. So if you want to do a site walk,
Don't
we
go
can go
back.
back there.
Poison ivy.
Covered in poison ivy,
Yeah.
I'm certain. I think I was out there when there wasn't a
Okay.
lot of vegetation, but I could smell it.
Yeah. But I've been out to that general area enough.
You
to
have,
I've been through it, so.
more times.
That's right,
Because we came over from Panis Road,
right. We've done this at least 3 or 4 times.
yeah. So,
So what is your method of controlling the pollution products that are associated, with cars, but the trucks,
Sure.
drippings?
Yep.
I mean, looking at this, it looks like ordinary catch basins.
So what we have, this is a, it has a multi-stage system. So what we're trying to eliminate total suspended solids, and we're trying to eliminate phosphorus. We want to get to at least 80% total suspended solids removal, and we want to get to at least 60% phosphorus removal. So the way we're going to do it is, I know it's hard to see, but if you go to sheet 4.1, 2, and 3, and actually I'll bring it up myself here. And I'm going to share. Okay. Oh, come on. Okay, let me zoom in. I'm just going to zoom in on a piece of this so we can talk about it and just. So what you have down here is, we're doing a couple of different things for low-impact development. The major thing we're doing here is the roof. It's a pitched roof. It's not a flat metal roof. So it's a pitched roof, and I know you'll like this part. At least 50% of it is going to be solar ready. But anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to take that runoff, and before it hits the ground, we're going to capture it in gutters. Everything's going to be pitched to the right as you look at the plan, and then it's going to go into downspouts, and it'll be a separate drain system. So the driveway and parking area and roof runoff will not mix. They're going to be separated. And the reason for that is because the roof runoff is considered clean. It's not mixing with oils and greases like David just talked about. So that's going to go directly to the bigger basin, Basin 1, which one I showed you up top. So that's a major element of cleaning, of making sure we keep it clean. You've seen that a million times when we'd show you on houses. We do it for gutters on houses, and we put them into little separate drain systems. The next thing we're doing on each of these is, see these down in this corner here? This is a catch basin that's capturing most of the runoff from this lower parking lot. There's a tree box filter there. All right, so what you guys have seen these before, London Estates, the middle aisle. So the middle aisle in London Estates, the runoff comes down, goes into this tree box filter. The tree box filter, it depends on the amount of area it's treating. So it might be 4x4, 6x6, 6x8, whatever. And it's calculated, and it's in the report how we calculate it. So before the runoff gets into that catch basin, it goes into the tree box filter. The tree box filter is filled with like 36 inches of a bioretention soil mix. So it's in the plans, but I don't remember. It's some oak wood chips, bioretention mix, wood chips mix, and then the bottom is stone. So as it's going through, it's cleaning, hits the stone, and there's a pipe in the stone. It's a perforated pipe. The perforated pipe runs it into the catch basin. So that by itself cleans to 80%. So right there, you're already cleaning it, in that area. So each catch basin on the site, except for these two out here in the middle, have tree box filters before them. So the reason if we don't have them out there is, of course, because it's in the middle of a parking lot. So everything else is on the gutter side. This is in the middle of a parking lot. So what we're doing here is we're capturing this runoff, and let me go up to the next sheet. So this is the parking lots coming, following, going right here, and now it's going right there. This is the big basin just to capture it. This is what's called drain manhole 1. It doesn't say it on here. It should. I've already made the change. What we're going to put there, it's called a contact cascade filter. And what it does, it's just like every other one of these filters, like the storm scepter you guys have seen me bring in. Water goes in, and instead of just a regular manhole where it goes in and out, or a catch basin where it goes in and out, this thing brings it into a vortex. So the water goes in, and it starts, water just makes, it's like a toilet, but it's not. And it makes it twin, and what's happening is all of the heavier particulates, like the solids, is being drawn to the bottom of that structure, and then the rest of it is going out, kind of like a catch basin. And that will handle, we design it, in this particular case, we design it for 1 inch. That's the requirement in this particular site. So that in itself gives you another 50%, or that gives you 50%, because there's the pre-treatment before this is the catch basin. Catch basin's 25%. Now you're taking another 50% out of this. Then it gets to the basin itself, the infiltration basin, that takes out 80%. So for the most part, on this site, we're getting better than 90% of TSS removal. Phosphorus removal, we get 60% from that cascade, and a tree box filter gives you 60%. So that's the treatment train that works for this particular site. And it's good because these basins, they'll eventually clog. So the cleaner you can get that water going in there from day one, the longer it's going to last.
How frequently, do they have to be cleaned, or like emptied out and replaced?
Yes,
How frequently does that happen?
good question. What it is that it just depends on what's going on the site. A lot of it, in my mind, depends on the construction. So if they're protected during construction, the thing will last quite a while. If not, it will die in 6 months, and then the guy's got to get back in there with a disc or a deep auger and start breaking up the soil and getting the infiltration back. So there is a operation and maintenance plan in your filing. So we have an operation and maintenance plan for the tree box filter, for the cascade, for the catch basin, and for the infiltration basin.
Thank you.
Does the state or the Fed EPA require a yearly report or be submitted to the town, the person who's in charge of overseeing storm drainage?
No.
No?
No, some towns, it's, sometimes, because what's happening now is and I'm trying to remember, I wish, Chris Gallagher here, he'd know. They are going through a MS4 program, which is, it's a municipal storm sewer elimination program or something. So back in the day, towns were not held accountable, and now the state and federal, it started at the federal level, and now it's down to the state level, now it's down to the town level. Foxborough is lucky because we're at the top of the watershed. So we're at the top of the watershed, so we're in pretty good shape. If you're like Dedham, at the bottom of the watershed with the Charles River going through, or the Muddy River and stuff, I mean, they have a lot of water bodies that have, they call them TMDLs, which is some fancy name for how much pollutants you got to take out and what kind. Foxborough, I think the only one is the Neponset Crack Rock Pond. Crack Rock, and it starts there and goes out to Walpole.
I think Robinson Brook, and then the Gannett or Ganawanet or whatever it is, pond that's up in just over the line in Sharon.
Ganawanet, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure about Robinson Brook. But Foxborough is very little, and so we're lucky that the feds and the state aren't bothering us, but they're going to. So, they're going to get to us eventually after they take care of the bad ones. So they'll get down to us. But I know that the DPW and the engineering department have a program. I mean, if you've noticed, I don't know if you notice this stuff, I do, because I have no life. But the town now is maintaining stormwater basins, where before all they did was clean catch basins every couple of years. Now they're out there taking care of all these basins that they took ownership of during subdivision control. So that's the best answer I can give you. There's nothing that requires it, but that doesn't mean there can't be a requirement.
I would think the state would require, start at the top of the water chain rather than going, say, to Dedham, trying to get them to clean it up when stuff
Yeah.
is coming down to them. If they start at the top, start cleaning it up from the top, it would be easier, I would think.
Yeah, I think they're just looking at the most polluted bodies of water and then trying to get them there. They have different classifications, I think it's 1 through 5. And, you know, the ones that are the worst are the ones they're concentrating on. But that makes perfect sense what you just said, you're right.
Anything else from the board? Do you have any questions from the audience? Just come up and identify yourself and
Hi, my name is Danielle Loretz, and I live at 130 Beach Street here in Foxborough. I'm kind of new to this project, so I have a bunch of questions. I don't know if it's easier if I read them to you all, or if you want me to go one by one.
okay, I just want to make sure that there are issues with conservation, not with planning board or Board of Health or any of that, because we do not answer for planning board.
Understood. No, these are conservation
Okay.
questions. So while I was looking at this, I was wondering if the wetland or the forested area behind where this is going to be proposed to be built had been studied for any wildlife impacts. As we're getting more and more construction, I've seen a lot of wildlife impact, such as, you know, increased rodents all over the place, especially running through my property. I don't see the hummingbirds as much as I used to when I first moved here, the songbirds, and if there's been any identifications of any species of interest from the state in that area.
Jane,
can
I'll let
answer
you
that.
answer that one.
I was talking about the birds actually yesterday when I was hiking with a friend who's a birder, and I was asking her about the bird count this spring and such at the Audubon, and she says the bird counts are down, and that has to do with a number of things, not just development in one town. It's their whole migratory route's been messed up and everything like that. As far as rare species in the area go, no, there aren't any that we know of, and I know where most of them are.
Okay, thank you. The other questions I have, such as regarding conservation again, is the 13,000 square feet of permanent impact on that wetland buffer zone. What kind of mitigation could the Conservation Commission place as mitigation for that?
They are impacting such a teeny little section. I'm really surprised, honestly, because most places in town, there are all sorts of impacts. And this is almost entirely out of our jurisdiction with the 100-foot buffer, and none of the 25-foot is being impacted. And it's an area that's been abused in the past as well. It's not pristine or anything. That's not to say that it's not worth protecting. But they've really stayed out of it, and they're cleansing a lot of the stormwater, which currently isn't cleansed. I mean, a lot of that current site is probably impervious surfaces, and who knows where it goes, because it's an older building. And they're really out of the buffer, out of our jurisdiction, thankfully.
I've got more questions. Do you know how many trees approximately will be removed for this construction? And then is there a screening plan or tree replacement basically for the residents, but also for noise and light pollution from a building like this?
That's
I
a
don't
planning.
know, is
That's
the
a planning
board-
question?
That's a
Question,
planning
yeah.
board question, basically.
And then the only other question I had was, it was just two more. it goes back to the rodents. During construction, if residents and along Beach Street and Tucker and Meadowbrook or Meadowview, sorry, are having rodent problems, again, due to the construction, is there a plan for us to be able to get that mitigated? I know that,
I know I have an awful lot of rodents at my house, and I have no construction nearby. There's a new kind of a little tool, because you get a 5-gallon bucket, and it's called slip and slide or something like that, and it's got a flipper, and they go in. I keep it in my garage, I get one a night.
Mr. Bodie, the Board of Health has asked us to make sure that we, because it's a restaurant and a function hall, the Board of Health has asked us to make sure that, prior to start of the construction, as part of the construction management plan, that we coordinate with them to make sure we have a rodent mitigation plan.
Okay, good, thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
and just the last question, I'm not sure if this one is conservation, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but due to the uptick in, obviously, in traffic in the report, it said, 1,000 cars a day, so it's considered.
Be planning board.
That would be planning, so, okay,
Absolutely.
then I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions, comments?
Good evening. Hi, I'm Michelle Paluzzi. I live at 4 Tucker Lane. I'm not sure if this is a planning board question or a question for you all, but looking at this plan, we all know what trees and soil does to storm water drainage, and you are going to be disrupting a very large part of land that has not been disrupted, that has, this building's up here, Tucker Lane is down here. We have not had any flooding issues, anything like that, but by disrupting this land, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. You're telling me that any natural waterfall, rain, storm, snow melting, it's going to go around the building, it's not going to go its natural course down the hill into Tucker Lane, into the Meadowview area, which would also include any pollutants, any, you're telling me it's going to go around the building
Well,
into...
he's got storm drains to capture all of the runoff,
Mm-hmm.
and it will be piped around the building.
Right, and I understand that, but the storm drain is only going to capture what's coming off the building. It's not going to capture the torrential. Right now, we get the waterfall, torrential downpours, we get the snow, we have everything coming down, and the land right now is level itself. So
And
by disrupting that,
basically, the ground is going to stay level.
but the trees and the soil are going to be gone, and that's a large part of what stops stormwater drainage. And that includes pollutants and everything, and so I'm just curious because I just want to know, you're talking about the other side of the building, but you have a whole neighborhood that's abutting this
Yes.
that is going to be
He's
affected.
got storm drains on that side as well.
Okay,
Is very definitely on that whole side, everything will be piped in and goes towards Route 1 into those catch basins.
Mr. Bodie, one of the things, and I failed to mention this, is the town just doesn't take my word for it. They hire their own consultant, which is Environmental Partners. Environmental Partners does a stormwater review in order to make sure that the project complies with all of the DEP and local standards. They have done that review, and they've issued their letter. We're working through some of the comments. One of the issues that we have to make sure that we address from the beginning is we have to make sure that the rate of runoff in any direction is not greater than it is today. So they look at that for the town, both for the planning board and for the commission. So I think if anybody wanted to look at that, certainly they could get a copy of it. I'll send you a copy of it, or the planning board has a copy of it as well. And they could, give you a little comfort that it's not just my word for it, that the town has hired a consultant in order to make sure that what we're doing is correct.
Thank you.
and I don't know if this is a planning board question, but I know you mentioned using town water for this project, is that correct? I heard Walpole was sewer, but the town water would be used, and I'm curious how we have the resources for that when our own town citizens can't even utilize their water freely at this point. And I don't know if that's a planning board or conservation, because I know conservation is the one doing the...
That's a primarily a water department problem. I will say that the amount of water that will be used here will not impact
Okay.
your water or anybody else's.
And I have one, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. The town has plenty of water. It's just the state is not allowing them to sell as much as they could.
And I understand that what is going in on this land is a leasing company, and I understand they don't have a tenant yet. So I know we're talking about 1,000 parking spaces for cars or specific parking spaces for trucks, and none of that, I mean, this is all speculation because they don't have a tenant yet. But I'm wondering, I don't know if conservation would handle the pollution aspect of that, which would be air quality for the neighboring towns, or the town for that matter. When you're having a 24/7 facility, which was proposed at in the original plans, I mean, that's a lot of emissions going into the air, that's a lot of pollutions, that's a lot of pollutions going into the water supply. That's going to affect everything. It's going to affect the wetlands. And, you know, we're all sitting here as humans, but, you know, Mother Nature's going to do its thing, so we can produce the best, you know, proposals with this is what's going to happen if it rains, but nothing is set in stone. And, you know, we're just trying to protect our neighborhood, too. And these are very large neighborhoods with lots of young kids, and this facility was already here. Funway was there, since, like you said, since 1960. And now you're proposing something that was never there. So we're just trying to understand how this is going to affect our corners of the world. And we do have a lot of wildlife. We have the deer. That used to be, my understanding is before, behind Tucker Lane, that conservation land was also a pig farm back in the day. So we have a ton of coyotes, deer, foxes. We have a ton of wildlife still. And to say that that's not going to be affected is incorrect. And that's all I had to say. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Johnny Gattani, 7 Willis Lane. Are we going to leave any more natural woods, streams, without cooperation greed coming into our town and just taking over? Every morning I look out, I see blue herons flying towards that wetlands. Canadian geese. I see deers in my backyard, foxes, coyotes, all kinds of nature animals. Now it's decreasing. Now it's going to be nothing after this thing goes in. I just like to see, at least keep some woods, except the state forest, Gilbert State Forest. We should have some woods left in the town, instead of just developing everything. And on Route 1, we're going to have this with the wetlands behind there, a nice woods behind there, and there's a big lake down there. I don't know the name of that lake, but I discovered that. I've been in Foxboro 40 years. I took a walk down there with a couple of friends one time. I never even know there was such a beautiful, uninhabited lake down there. Crystal clear water, no houses around it, trees all around it. Beautiful lake. I don't know the name of it because I just discovered it 10 years ago. I should have researched it to see what the name was. But you could just tell. Diesel truck, diesel fumes. I get diesel fumes from the end of my street from where those 2 warehouses are now, next to the Mac Rush Farm and right down the end of Willis Lane. In the wintertime, they idle for hours. That fumes comes up up Willis Lane. I like to keep my window open in the winter a little bit for fresh air. I don't like to smell as diesel and noise. And I don't see any more animals anymore. Deers come through my yard all the time. I don't see nothing anymore. Let's just keep things natural. Put a nice hotel in there. I'd rather see a hotel in a theme park. Let's keep the trees nice, the streams flowing, and the animals. All I see is dead animals on the road because they're getting forced out of there inhabited. Let's get with it here. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Carl Condon, 188 Beach Street. My question is, What are these two retention ponds rated for? How many gallons? Oh, sorry.
Okay, just to keep the order there. Again, what's the rating for them? I will refer to the engineer on.
They're designed to capture and infiltrate what's called the 100-year storm, which means that it's the storm that has a 1% chance in any given year of hitting, and it's 6.8 inches in 24 hours.
Okay. And you being the Conservation Commission, I believe you can impose rules and regulations of this drain storm filtration system. Because it's wood, which rots out within, in that situation, probably 6 months to a year. It'll be all mush and turn into dirt. So you could impose a 6-month yearly inspection of those filtration systems, correct?
They have right now they have a maintenance plan. I haven't read the maintenance plan, but if they don't work, they see the results of the testing, and it's up to them to maintain them.
So how regularly do these get tested?
I'm not sure.
Good question. Okay, I can
Talking
answer
about the
that.
tree boxes?
Yeah, he's talking.
Yeah, the tree boxes there.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
They have a maintenance requirement, don't they, Bill?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm just looking for it right now. Let's see.
Would it be in this one, Bill?
Yeah, give me the big one, thanks.
From another project, Bill, it says the boxes compost will need maintenance and the wood chips will need to be replaced every year.
Okay.
And
Tree box filters, so here's the way, this is post-construction now. Catch basins are inspected 4 times a year, cleaned out if there's any debris. Parking areas swept twice a year. Stormwater basins inspected once per year for settlement, cracking, erosion, tree growth. Tree box filters are maintained. You inspect and remove trash monthly, reinstall mulch annually, remove dead vegetation annually, replace entire media and all vegetation as needed. And then the contact separator, you have to go into the technical guide that they give you there. So that's how
so
we do it.
will you be getting these reports to make sure they're doing the work
We could
and
request
maintaining
them.
these?
We can make that part of the order of conditions.
Okay. Because, yeah, the retention ponds work and they don't work. Yeah, Foxborough has failed to clean out retention ponds, and it looks like trees, and they've never followed up on them. And I want to make sure that these are getting done and maintained properly, because the one that's in my backyard, the town has not touched since it's been built. And there's trees 6-8 inches round in it plus.
Well, is it a retention basin or what's the proper terminology?
I'm not sure. This was many years ago when they put
Okay.
in the development. I'll have to look at it,
Okay.
look it up.
But does it hold water, or does the
It-
water drains out?
It does not hold water. Where the storm drains go into from the development, and then just drains out. But the town is supposed to maintain it. They put an easement in on the development behind my house to access it, and it never happened.
Well, if the water drains out. That's why it's supposed to flow back into
Yes,
the
but there's
ground.
not supposed to be a forest growing in it, and the town is supposed to maintain it.
Yeah. But if it's,
So now it's not properly working.
As Bill said, the town is starting to do this more because the
This was over,
NIPD's MS4 requirements are an unfunded mandate that require the town to do these things. So they've really stepped up to the plate, and Lance, the new town engineer,
Okay.
has done some really good work I'm very impressed with.
so I would like you to put a motion that you get a report when they do their maintenance program.
we can put that
Please.
in the order of conditions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It's almost a planning board requirement too.
Yeah. All right, if there are no other questions, we'll motion to continue.
Just have one question, just reiterate, Bill. Every paved area is going to have a curbing to it, including the parking areas along the westerly
Lane.
side. And that will control all the runoff coming off the areas into the various catch basins that you can see better on the bigger plan.
Yes.
Some of those catch basins will have the tree filters associated with it before it goes into the catch basin itself, right?
All of them except for the two in the parking lot.
Right. So when you look at that westerly side, it appears that you have a berm along most of that side of the parking lot, right?
You're talking about like an earth berm?
Yeah.
Yes.
Reading the grading lines.
Yep.
Okay. So there really isn't any swales there, even in torrential rainfall, that could be directed water along that side or off that side to the west.
No, nothing can physically leave the paved area because there's a berm there. And the berm was put there as a landscape element.
Right.
May I ask a question to Mr. Spillane and Mr. Buckley?
What's that?
Come to the mic.
Commission.
You need to come to
To
the
the
mic.
commission, please.
Mr. Spillane,
No,
excuse me, Chairman.
the
May I ask
chairman,
Mr.
please.
Spillane and Mr. Buckley a question, please? May I?
yeah,
Mr. Spillane, Mr. Buckley, do you know who's going in this warehouse?
There are no tenants at this time.
It's not Amazon.
There are no tenants at this time, no.
Okay, so we're putting this up for an unknown
Yeah, not
occupier.
enough. The applicant will be.
The applicant's putting it up for an unknown occupier. Okay, thank you.
anything else? Would you like to continue for
Could you please continue it to the July 11th meeting?
July 11?
Yes, because I'm not unavailable then June 23rd or whatever that meeting is.
Okay,
You might want to ask if this quorum would be available for that meeting as well, because that is vacation time.
yeah.
So
Well,
you want to
the
continue?
other two members can have
Mullins,
Mullins in, because this
right.
is the first hearing.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Then you want to continue it to July, right?
Yes,
July 11th.
I think it's July 11th, right?
July
okay,
11th.
It's July
excuse me,
11th,
there's one other thing I forgot. We have received a letter from a neighbor, I assume. I'll request Rebecca to read it into the minutes.
This is a letter received from Donna Penny of 14 Meadowview Road. I have some serious flooding and pollution concerns for the proposed special permit for 2 Washington Street. Please see the attached map of my neighborhood and concerns the neighborhood has encountered over the years. I feel the proposed new building at 2 Washington Street is positioned too close to the houses. This oversized building doesn't fit the lot, so they are pushing it way up against our neighborhood. The rainwater runoff from the parking lot will bring pollution into the wetlands. Also, cutting down all the trees could cause major problems for the wetlands and all the neighbors, not to mention the air and noise pollution that will affect the wildlife. Some houses have encountered flooding problems in years past, and the storm drain runoff goes right into the wetlands. This company cannot possibly foresee where the water will flow and should not be granted special permits. The business should not be able to change all the rules that apply to this area by applying for special permits. I hope the Conservation Committee will think long and hard about protecting us from this type of huge corporation buying up land cheap to make a profit while polluting our resources.
Would you like a copy of that for your
We,
records?
Diana sent it to us, thank you.
Okay, all right. All right. Motion to continue till July.
I'll make a motion to continue 2 Washington Street to DEP 157 TBD, until July 11th.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Diana would love to have it.
Throw it in the box.
Thank you, those are really good comments and questions. Well, they were, oh, okay, all right. Good, good.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Seemed like the right moments.
Yes, it was. Okay, where's my,
Mark,
where am
how
I?
are you?
Where am
Better than
I?
anything else, because they go into the permanent record, and it gives you an opportunity to think things
Yeah.
through
Yeah,
and
you
write
missed-
a really good, non-emotional, just the facts, ma'am, kind of thing. I prefer them.
What is this, Bill?
I think it would be awesome. Personally,
London is,
I recommend that people write letters or memos with, well thought out stuff, because it does go into the record. You can see it, you can touch it. It's a good idea. Absolutely. All right, thank you.
You just have the site plan?
Which one?
It's the, that approved one was, it shows the buffer restoration.
See this farm,
14,000.
What are we doing there?
Just to give
we've got London Estates.
a reference.
Right, I've forwarded their information to all of you, and I also tried to, I was having I have this history document, and I was trying to condense it and add photos, and I had so many problems with my Microsoft Word, I was ready to scream. So,
And there.
there's a lot of good stuff that's in there, hopefully it's still in my brain, because it disappeared when I went to print it out.
This is Mark. That's you.
That's all we need.
And I have yours. So I brought yours.
Sure, we need it for photos. But yeah, just so it shows the area. Right?
Yeah.
There's the basin, there's that one, and that one.
Oh, actually, I have some notes on it, maybe I will keep it.
Perfect, thank you.
Want to use it?
Yeah. Okay, we're ready?
We're
Good evening,
ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mark Cooperman with Ecoterra Design and Consulting, working with Mr. Buckley, engineer for London Estates, and our client, Mike Roney from Briarwood Construction. We were brought in order to help Briarwood with one of the ongoing conditions of their permits for London Estates in these buffer zone restoration areas, which are right here. There's one side, and there's the left side, totaling about just under 35,000 square feet from the wetland, in addition to the shoulders of the retention basin up here. So these are the three areas we're going to be talking about. So when Briarwood had come to us, we worked with them on other projects for restoration work. There seems to be an ongoing struggle with the invasive, non-native invasive plant species out there, and a complete lack of a successful establishment of a native plant palette for a number of reasons. As this has been going on, the prevalence of the non-native invasives has obviously gotten worse and gotten stronger. In the buffer zone restoration areas up here,
Also sensitive.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Don't look at
Don't
that.
look-
That's 'cause it's delayed.
It's delayed, yeah. In the larger 20,000 plus square foot one here, and similarly in this one here, we're definitely having issues with Japanese knotweed, in addition to some of the originally named honeysuckle, multiflora rose, et cetera.
Got a problem.
Okay, okay.
Bigger zoom in. Zoom in. Zoom in. Two.
Is that all right? Paul?
Is that,
Yep. See it on the camera?
okay.
You good? Okay. So the areas are struggling with regard to any significant coverage from a native plant palette. So we initially looked at the original restoration schedule up here, which was very traditional, a lot of woody plants to establish. And one of the things I brought to Mike's attention was looking at what's adjacent here along the edge of the wetland and the forested area that's untouched, that there's no way we could ever maintain long-term a woody plant composition like that without some periodic mowing or something like that, which would suppress those invasive non-native woody species. So I suggested that we take a full, kind of fresh look at it, and what can we do to bring success to Briarwood so they can complete this part of their condition. So we looked at it, and I've discussed it with Jane on site, of turning it more into a meadow environment, which would require annual mowing, which we find is one of the best strategies for fending off the non-native invasive woody plant species because they can't handle being mowed regularly.
Okay.
So we've put together in the revised habitat restoration plan, as you can see here, that hopefully you all received, put together both some specifications for those buffer zone restoration areas. They're actually second in the report, I apologize. It started kind of logically as we entered the road. And that is essentially a mix or variation of a mix we use quite frequently, which is often used in solar fields. And it basically provides nice, thick herbaceous ground cover, grasses, some forbs, while at the same time trying to retain the original integrity of the buffer zone restoration plan that was put together with Mr. Buckley and the other consultants previously to bring back about 130 of those shrub species. But what we would do is we would clump them in groups. So we would get the habitat value of a particular species, let's say, for example, the sweet pepper bush. But they would be grouped together so that the mowers could go around them, okay? And that's it's an important strategy because we need to be able to mow to fend off everything else.
Sure.
But if they're planted thick and dense, of course, that increases the odds that we can fend off some of the undesirables. So the approximately 132, I guess it is total, within the 4 species, were maintained to preserve some of the original integrity of the requirements for the planting schedule, which was quite a bit more. But the point here is we need something successful and maintainable. And so therefore the bulk of the rest of it will be more of a meadow type environment with this very diverse native mix that Briarwood and the subsequent homeowners association can maintain, and we can ensure, you can, when we're all gone and we're not on the site, right? That this looks like some semblance of a meadow and not a farm of multiflora rose and Japanese knotweed any longer that nobody can win. So that was that's the essence of the fundamental approach we took to that. With regard to the retention basin, it's a much simpler, to some extent, problem in that the inner workings of the retention basin have successfully established. There's some native, there's buttonbush, some native woodies in there, in addition to a number of native grasses and forbs around the shoulders, but there is a heavy infestation of mugwort, the Artemisia vulgaris, in there. And as Gene and I walked through it on site, I think it's manageable to start to shift that, and some spot seeding with also another native mix. Now, to do all of this, we are proposing, and it's my opinion, having done a lot of restoration work, that at this point,
the most successful tool will be the use of herbicides in the short term in order to very, very specifically target these outbreaks, if you will, where they occur, of these non-native invasives. And so there's a couple of ways we can do it. For example, for the woody plants and the larger knotweed. So it's a very targeted cut stem treatment, and the herbicide is painted on rather. Same thing with the Japanese knotweed, which really needs to be done when it's in flower to be successful. And that is done in late August, September, and that's where the large stems are cut, and the herbicide is injected into the hollow stem so that the plant actually translocates the herbicide to all that starch in those tubers that are all over the place. If any of you have ever dealt with it, you can't dig it up, you can't do anything, you can't pull it. You're only reproducing it if you do that. So that's what we find is one of the better ways. In addition to some of, where needed, the smaller versions of any of the plants could have a foliar application applied. And that could be a very localized spray on that area or a white swab onto that.
Now, would you be doing it, or would you have to have?
We have one of our restoration contractors doing it, correct? We will work with Briarwood.
Okay.
Already discussed it with
somebody that has the license to.
Licensed pesticide applicator, yes, and you'll see it says that in the protocol that we've provided here. Exactly. So it's a pretty standard, pretty standard herbicide treatment protocol, sort of a phase 1, which is an initial treatment, and that's go in and get everything you can, knowing that some of it's going to show up again, or you missed a few that you didn't see yet. And then there's sort of phase 2, which is a follow-up, and you repeatedly use the same techniques. What we do find is as it becomes more successful, around phase 2, phase 3, that we end up with obviously smaller plants in stature, so we end up doing a little more swabbing or very localized spraying after we've done all the cut stem treatments or basal bark treatments on the larger woody plants. Okay. And I think from a timing perspective, Mr. Chairman, at this point, given that actually, I was explaining to Mike today, we really didn't miss much this spring because spring planting conditions were horrible. Given the timing, I think we're thinking about a couple of things. One is, and I apologize, I didn't outline this very descriptively in here, but we're going to have to bring in a fair amount of good soil for particularly for these areas, not for the retention basin, for these buffers and restoration areas here, for this one at least, and maybe a little bit in here, because the soil that's out there right now is very, very bony and exposed gravel. So we'll have to do that in preparation, which gives us the remainder of this season to start to knock these invasives down for a fall planting, obviously at this point. We don't have water available for this naturalized area, so we're relying on Mother Nature.
Okay.
Any questions?
Jane, you?
Yeah. Excuse me. I like a lot of these ideas. As far as the shrubs, I would recommend against swamp azalea because the place is like a desert out there.
Yes.
And looking through my notes, let me see. At one point, they cut a bunch of the clethra in the area that is beyond the first dead-end road on the left. And they removed a lot of it by mistake, and they said they would replace the clethra, which should have grown really well there, because it was a really thick patch. But here are the facts. The invasives were removed in October of 2016. The plantings, although I recommended they be done in the springtime, the next spring, plantings were done at the end of November in 2016. And then in 2018, during a meeting, Bill Buckley said that the plants will be hit again because they were not doing so well. I like your idea of the cut, not weed. Could you give us lessons, please? And also, I had mentioned the lawn murder article. Did you look it up?
No, I haven't had a chance yet.
Because I got to say, I really hate the idea of doing the same thing all over again, because this was done initially and it wasn't maintained. And I know you're different.
Different.
I know you're different. And I do like your ideas about clumping the natives, especially if they were the clethra, because obviously they like to grow there.
Yeah, they'll grow in bony soil.
You want something that's going to be relatively invasive. I mean, even my favorite, the hay-scented fern, I think would be a good one. But as far as your list goes, you've got a lot of good stuff, it looks like.
You know, I don't have a problem, Jane, switching out the swamp azalea for either some or the others or something else. Maybe you know, we'll look more closely at where we're going to locate these. So these drifts of the shrubs, I envision, and Dylan and I have discussed it briefly, is we'll sort of do some little nodes coming out of the wood line, right? Would seem to be logical.
Absolutely, I agree. And now, again, to the clethra that was removed, that area had a lot of really nice looking hay-scented fern and clethra growing in there. It's almost like a no-brainer. I mean, a lot of it was taken out and it really shouldn't have been. But that, I think, you could almost have a monoculture of that stuff and it would probably suit you.
That was the smaller area to the right of the.
Yeah, and the soils there are crummy, they're all fill, and they had been maintained as lawn, I believe, before. So they, you know, they weren't looking great, but they're really looking bad now. So I would suggest whacking them right away just to wear them out and cutting them for a bit rather than using the as much of the herbicide, perhaps.
Which, I'm sorry, repeat that again. Which one were you suggesting? Sort of just mowing?
Mowing in the first part. The second area beyond that first left-hand road.
Yes.
Since it was a really nice native, I mean, there were a lot of really crummy looking things in the area, but there was a really nice native patch of the clethra and the native.
You can tell it's a much
if you go in a ways,
pioneer it's a pioneer species composition, much different. It's dramatically different actually than the other side of the road.
Very dramatically different. Well, it's adjacent to the wetland as well.
Right.
So that's part of it. The other is like a desert. And if you can put desert plants there, a lot of the ones that you've recommended, you said you use a lot of grasses.
Well, that's where the grasses come in. That's right. That's why, because the underlying soils are poor soils. We have to bring in a planting layer in order to establish anything. But ultimately,
do you have to add planting layer of soil, or do you just work with the soil that you have?
The soil that's there is not workable for a seed base.
Just rocks, yeah.
Right. It's not. It's a subsoil.
So what kind of soil would you add, and how much?
Well, we looked at it. I mean, the grade is cut a little bit too, right, Bill? It's sort of. It looks like it's missing basically the top layer. We're thinking around 4 to 6 inches.
Well, it was cleared back in September. It was just completely obliterated. I don't know what was living there. I was looking back at my pictures, and I think it was 2016 or 17. The retention basin had lovely flowers everywhere. It looked really nice, but it wasn't maintained.
Yeah.
You know,
a
it
lot
had
of times
a really
those mixes,
good start.
I think you and I discussed this. So the
more ephemeral, I know.
Well, they clearly used a slightly showy mix around the detention
yeah.
basin, which is nice, but a lot of times the coreopsis, the daisy, they're not long for this world. They're perennial, but they're not long-term perennials.
Right.
They need to go to seed. So if you're not mowing and burning, and which again we'll have an O&M program for all of this.
Okay.
For mowing primarily.
Yeah.
So
for all
you
those
have
areas.
desert and crummy conditions, and so you want to work towards the Cape Cod kind of a scenery.
Well, and we'll bring into that point. We're not going to bring in an overly rich topsoil mix because the species we've selected don't want that. So it'll actually be a very friable.
All the stuff's going to come up anyway. Yeah. I find that the rocks come up, but so does the sand.
Right.
So even if you had nice soil,
it'll mix. It'll mix over time, and that's what these plants. That's what the base of that large list of meadow type plants it will be suitable for in various.
They look nice, yeah. Yeah, the coneflower, the butterfly weed, the asters, But
you've got to get that successful. You put down that soil. You've got to get that successful establishment, or you're back to ground zero.
Exactly, yeah.
Back to ground zero.
So how long would it have to be? Either could you cut it and see if it'll just die if you keep it cut really short for a short amount of time, and then nuke it later on in the season, if you need to?
Cut those that are there now.
Yeah.
I'd rather not miss that window of opportunity to really nuke them before we come in and invest a lot in this in the fall. There's always that risk. We lose a whole nother season and we have a less than successful establishment, that's my concern, from experience, that,
I have experience too.
yeah, no, I know, but I've got to make the guy who pays the bills here happy with it.
Well, we wanted to succeed clearly, and in order to succeed, you have to have someone coming on a regular basis.
Gotta
And
s-
so we have to have agreement that that's going to happen.
Yeah, so we'll probably, so for example, one of the things we'll do as we prep towards this and get ready for fall is, and I think I mentioned to this, I'll probably use a light cover crop to ensure that soils do have a light cover. Because some of the meadow species take a little longer to germinate.
Perhaps with something like a well-rotted compost cover type of thing? Oh, cover
No,
crop,
cover
you're
crop,
saying?
no, a cover.
Oh, like an annual rye or the partridge
We try not to
pea?
use annual rye because it's actually not so annual.
The partridge pea?
Partridge
That-
pea
I hear
and
that
or,
kind
we'll
of
even use
takes over
oats.
and it's
We'll
good.
even use oats in the fall sometime.
You got to read my lawn murder
Lawn murder.
article.
Yeah. The partridge pea is a good,
Because
Nitrogen
basically
fixer.
they said what they did is they murdered the lawn by putting down all of the Amazon boxes during the 2020,
Oh.
they put cardboard down first, and then they put a bunch of leaves,
Mm-hmm.
and they added some soil on top, and then they planted native plant species and the biennial partridge pea. So the partridge pea grew really thick and obnoxious.
Yep.
And then the perennials kind of got their grips and they started going, and then the shade was helping them and such. And after a couple of years, it was, the partridge pea were pretty much done.
right.
And it's brilliant. Read it.
Yeah, I'll read it, I'll read it.
Because I like the hands-off, the nuking, if at all possible.
It's just, like I said, it's a restoration tool that everybody from the Army Corps of Engineers to.
I
to
know,
we
doesn't
use.
mean it's right.
The Army Corps uses a lot of it.
I tried it too, and it, like I told you, it did not, it went crazy. Even though I put a couple drops, it did spread out and
Well,
kill
there's.
everything.
There's always that concern, but the good thing here is there's really nothing else, there's no secondary kill to worry about because there's nothing else living other than the invasives.
This says nuke it about 3 times.
Pardon me?
You wrote that you were going to be nuking it at about
Follow up,
3 times.
yeah, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
beyond that, like, once it's established, there wouldn't be any more herbicide usage.
So once it's established,
Knock
so
it down to begin
we
with.
can, right, so once it's established, the meadow areas, the two large areas, the 20,000 plus square foot and the 14,000, the mowing becomes the herbicide, the routine mowing.
Where's the dead-end street? I can't see it on there.
What, dead end street?
The dead end. Oh, so you're talking
Oh.
about the area that I wanted to see clethra and
This one, that's this one.
fern?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that would not be part of the, you should probably mow the,
No, it's gonna be similar, because the front is all is excavated and missing the topsoil here. There might be, to your suggestion, there might be a little variation in how this portion here happens, because it does have some
well, I have
growth.
some pictures that show that it was really well established. I'm surprised it was knocked down so badly.
I was not here, I don't know what happened. But the idea is that to allow for that meadow-type mowing, which is a higher, it's not a lawn mowing, it's a 6 to 8 inch height mowing annually. To allow for that, even if those woodies come back, they never fully establish. This area here around the shoulders, around the retention basin, would be similar, except it's a much smaller confined environment, and really it's the mugwort that we're battling with there. Once we can get the other perennials and grass, and some more grasses, that's the one thing that's lacking. They had a nice showy mix, and this is the problem with showy mixes.
It doesn't have
It
the grass
doesn't hold
that
its
holds
own.
it. I
It
know.
doesn't hold its own
I know.
because there's not enough grasses. So we need to get some grasses in here, and then also some semi-annual mowing to help with that.
Semi-annual?
Yeah.
The only problem about the detention basin is it draws animals. And so the
Right.
mowing, semi-annual, if it were really high, it would have to be high enough so that it wouldn't chop the tops off of turtles and such.
Right. You could even, this, you could.
And
we
snakes.
could suggest they even do it partially with a weed whacker, not a mower. It's small enough.
Yeah, but you definitely have to keep on top of it. That mugwort is my nemesis.
Mugwort, yeah, it is pretty bad. So a slight different in O&M on the two, but the big picture here and the real problem that Mike first brought me in for these two areas, and moving forward, once there's establishment, sure, these non-native invasives are going to creep back in. They're loaded all along the perimeter, and we're not going in there after them. So the bank is there, the seed base is there, but if we're mowing regularly and there's a thick meadow,
Are you talking about the detention basin, the retention basin area?
No,
Okay.
the bordering woodland along the back of the buffer zone areas, as we call them, this is loaded. If you walk the edge of it, it's loaded with a source of all those non-native invasives.
Oh, well, it was there to
outside
start with, yeah.
the limit of work here.
Yeah.
So they're there, they're coming back. It's not if, it's when. And that's why I felt so strongly when I first looked at this, that we can't do it as originally intended. You'll never be able to maintain it.
No, I do agree with that,
As a
'cause
woody, as a
obviously
woody
it's not
garden.
working.
Yeah.
You'll lose that battle far too quickly, but if we can put a brush hog through there once a year.
You see, we got a little problem with this. There's a flaw in your plan. You're only required to maintain it for 2 years,
2 years.
maybe
They were
3.
going to do
but
3-year maintenance, well.
Problem is, it's going to be privately held land. We only, when we do get the road and accept it, town's only responsible between the bounds. And there's no, who's going to maintain and mow it, especially with that type of mower. It's not going to be a regular sit-down, tractor type mower. And the private owner, are they really going to understand that they need to do this?
We can encourage them, we can provide them with the O and M, and that's also why I've tried to keep it simple, as simple as possible, but we're gone, you're gone,
Is there
Briarwood's gone.
Homeowners association?
There's an HOA, right?
There's a
Yeah.
homeowners
Yeah,
association
we
on
can-
this project. It's not just Joe Schmo who owns that lot.
Right, not
So-
individual,
Right.
yeah. There is an
Well,
HOA.
one thing I think that's been overlooked is that this restoration area was supposed to be for the 25-foot no-activity zone. So if you were only to, restore that land and then turn the rest into lawn that you kept cut, just a regular old pretty lawn, I don't know how far that would go, but 25 feet doesn't get you very far.
Well, this
The
is way
original
more than-
proposal was
This is way
25.
more than the 25.
I agree. That's what I just thought of.
So what, I didn't get your
What I'm
point.
saying is, initially, the proposal was to restore the 20-foot no-activity zone because there was so much invasive plants in the area. And I don't know where that 25-foot would be right at this time, but it seems to me that could be more.
You can see
It
it.
seems like some places they went beyond what you see, the lines up there.
Yeah,
You
so-
walk that
so here's-
site.
This is the 25. This line.
Oh, yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
it's on there, that's right.
So this is the 25.
Yeah,
And it's
Right.
gone well beyond it.
Well, if the commission were to agree to this, I think that, I really bugged me that they cut all those clethra and they didn't replace them. I think that the more critical areas up near the wetlands, which, eventually they drain out of and probably combine with the vernal pool. So you've got a lot of really good habitat value there. The rest of it's an entrance to a subdivision, and you want to make for pretty, but at the same time, I would say make that a narrower strip that could be maintained as plain old lawn, and then figure out a way to know where the definition was of the meadow. See what
so
I'm
there is,
saying?
there is a strip, there is a tree lawn there currently,
Yeah, right here.
that has been, recall, it has been established. I mean,
See
it's,
this?
Right.
What,
That's
that?
just plain old lawn right here.
Well, what I'm saying is, maybe make more lawn up in the front and less of a meadow and more of a restoration with the clethra in the back. The back is where you have your habitat value.
you're talking about this secondary area here,
Yes.
yeah.
I think that is the most critical area. The rest is kind of a lost cause. And the rest actually was filled in the past in a big way, and that was where most of the invasives were located. And that was, when I was rereading the information from the meetings and such, that's how it was proposed. We're going to get rid of the invasives that are growing there, and we're going to restore the 25-foot no-activity zone.
When
I
you
see.
go on the right side, when you walk it now, you got a heavy silt barrier that pretty much is parallel to the road. And everything in front of it to the road was dug out. Then you go on walk on the other side of the silt barrier, you got the great birches, red
All the
maples,
pioneer
and a few
species,
others
correct.
coming. But you are heavy with the invasives in that notch before you go down a little slope to the stream.
Okay.
So it's not meadow there. on the other side of that silk box.
No, it's not on the other side of it.
But it's
the
loaded
shrub.
with invasives that are having fun because it's all that sun. Now, if that's going to be part of the restoration, I think you really need to look at it because it's also got trees and everything that's natural there.
The original limits of the restoration were the wetland line. That was the idea, right?
Yes.
And then to the 25.
No, and more than that, you can see it.
Yeah.
That is the original restoration.
You guys have any, is there any stake out there, any survey control? I think
Yeah, I
there's
don't
some
know why they
there's some
cut
stakes
so
out
much
there,
up in that area.
right? I mean, they're old, but they're old.
The
but-
wetland lines.
Right.
Also,
So-
Bill, do you
Sorry,
have
Jane?
any monitoring reports? There was supposed to be 3 years' worth of monitoring reports, and it mentions that it was sent directly to you, but we'd never received any copies. So if we could get some copies?
I have at least, I was just looking through my file, I have at least 2.
I have none.
Okay, and they were
And
done by Pam.
it's referenced in one of the minutes, except then it kind of sounds like it glossed over and it went away.
No, we do have them because they were
I'd
done
really
by.
like copies to see.
It wasn't by Lauren, who's it? Oh, Erica.
Erica did it? Oh,
Erica did them, yes.
no, Erica wasn't even there. Briscoe was the one that was doing that.
Erica did the monitoring for us.
She did?
Pretty sure. I have the reports, I will send them to you.
I appreciate that.
So I just wanted to bring it to your attention that on the right side, when you go on the other side of Silk Sock, you got some good activities that are really growing, really growing on the edges.
Agreed.
But you don't really see the pepper bushes and some of the other things you want to see. You see, that's where the invasives are really taking over. And that was part of the restoration area that they were going to fix right to that intermittent stream.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as part of your restoration, please take out all the silt fencing that's still buried out there. It's on both sides.
Yes.
So, I don't know why did you need a silt sock out there? Does anybody know? I mean, that's a pretty
because they were-
heavy silt sock.
Why did we need it out there?
They were going to grade.
No, it's out there now. It's black, big.
Silt sock? Or the
Those
fence?
tube things.
The tube, the silt sock, yeah.
Yeah, the silt socks.
Yeah, there's some remnants in here. I've seen them.
I don't know.
No, these aren't remnants. These are fairly new.
Did you put new ones in last year before you?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
What,
you
for
threw
the
some
one
down.
to
Okay.
for the short road to the left?
No, for the whole area.
Oh. They were having a lot of silt problems, over and over and over again.
Oh,
But that wasn't where the silt problems were. It's just, it was put in
maybe they
there.
were doing a little bit more than they needed to.
Yeah, this was after it was excavated.
All along now.
Right.
I don't know if you really need it. It's so flat. Even if you bring in new soil, I mean,
No, and there's a good vegetative barrier that we're marrying up to.
Well, if those things are silt socks, compost, or mulch filled, you can simply just
Sip 'em,
rip them and
slice it and
spread
disperse it.
them.
Mhm.
If they're not doing any service. And in places that you would need possibly silt controls, you could probably get rid of the silt fence at this point.
It's or even straw wattle temporarily.
Straw wattles, no. No straw. Chew. Hate them.
Contractors-
less.
Contractors like them.
so Bill, one of the important things that was discussed previously was not to drain the wetland area A by having the bed underneath the culvert lower.
Right.
But do we have any information that the elevation is what's supposed to be?
It's perfect.
It is?
Yep, we did. He said it exactly where it's supposed to be. So,
And
yeah.
Bill, I think I asked you, is this order still open?
I'm sorry?
I think I asked you, is the order still open? I didn't happen to manage to look at that in my frustration
doubt it.
today.
It's like 16, right? Did we ever extend it? Was it ever extended? I don't know. I doubt it, Jane. Because you were just saying 16, and it's 16 is the number, so that's 2019. I don't know if there's any extensions. I don't remember doing any.
Does that mean we should, this is an interesting one.
Do you send us on our way?
No, I'm wondering new filing. I know that they used to say catch up and pay the fee,
Yeah.
the fees for the, but I don't buy that. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Pay the
So-
town will pay the premium for not having filed the extension.
If it's done, I wonder if they should make a new filing with, I don't want to.
No, I mean, that was for the road, detention basin, everything, so,
Well, it was for the infrastructure.
It was
And
for
the
the-
infrastructure is it's on hold right now because of this darn retention area.
Well-
But that was the carrot and stick approach, and Paige, I know, asked me to check it out, and I said, well, wait, that's not done yet. So she had to say, no, it can't be accepted.
right, but the infrastructure has been inspected and approved by the town. They were ready to accept the road, except for this portion.
Except for this. Well, we didn't ask for it.
No, I
It's
understand,
made
but
part
I-
of it.
I
So
just
the poor planning on your part does not come out to an emergency on our
I'm not making
part.
an excuse, I'm just pointing out that the infrastructure is done and it's
I know. So
properly
this is
done.
frustrating for all of us.
I know,
So-
so that's why I want to move forward. That's
So
what
we
I'm
need,
doing.
we need 2 years of successful vegetation, correct? For
Or
for
3
this
years
board.
of, 3 years,
For this
well,
board.
3 years of monitoring. Although if there's always, there, in theory, has been a couple of years of monitoring. I think there's been a lapse
Been some
due
time
to,
served.
out of everyone's control.
Served, right?
You know, one of the things we can do is, I know what David brought up about going forward, and you're right. Look at a lot of stuff you guys put in there is continuing conditions, and you're right. But one of the things we can do, and I'm sure Mike doesn't have a problem with this, it's similar to what we do like with the Board of Health. So the Board of Health, sometimes when we do what's called innovative alternative septic systems, you guys see them. Fast systems, we come in and talk, fast system. Well, those have an ongoing maintenance requirement. And what the Board of Health requires us to do is that when I think it's 1 year. So we put it in, they give us a certificate of compliance, and at that point, we have to hand them a contract that shows that
That you've
we
got a
have a 1-year
maintenance.
contract. And then it gets renewed, and they have to submit that every year. Now, that's more paperwork for your staff, but we could certainly do something like that, and maybe start off like on a 3-year contract to show, at the end of the 2-year growth period, when we say, okay, we're ready to go, and you look at it and go, yep, looks good, and at that point, we could hand you the homeowners association contract with whoever the contractor is gonna be to do the maintenance for 3 years, or whatever the number is. And then you're just up to you to monitor it, when Diane can put it on her calendar. or
It sounds like a great thinking out of the box type of thing, but I think the whole idea between the restoration area, and we try and get everybody to do them first, because it's the carrot and stick approach, period.
Right, but you gotta have money for the carrot, that's what it is. You can't spend all the money up front to do the infrastructure and then say, oh, we're gonna wait 2
Well,
years.
if it's going to be a 2-year thing before you can get a certificate of compliance,
Right.
blah, 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 and thus accept the road to be maintained by the town, it's going to have to stay as a private road for a while longer.
Yeah, and that's exactly, you're right. You are right. If we had maintained this for the 3 or 4 or 5 years, we wouldn't be here tonight, but it did. And that's why we're here tonight, to come up with a new plan.
We're here to find a solution that works in the time,
Right.
in the minimum amount of time frame required. And that's a lot of what we've tried to do, so that we can all move beyond this.
It's, I would say, a reasonable approach.
Meaning what?
This plan, move forward.
Yeah, sounds good. Whose plan?
Box.
Mine.
Okay, all right. I was wondering if it was the 3-year contract thing where I was going to have to
No,
go out and check
no.
it every year and
Oh,
pull my hair out, because what am I going to do to you?
Yeah.
Careful what we wish for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'd like to see it fixed. I mean, it's an eyesore. I've been taking pictures, driving down there a lot and going, ugh, for how many years now?
Stop driving down for a while, give us some time.
Well, I've been trying not to.
Stop driving for a little bit.
so,
I've been trying not to, but I do have a lot of pictures of that whole site, so.
so your main activity will begin soon, and then the fall is the big cutting and spray in.
Correct. No, actually, that would start, the eradication would start immediately.
Okay.
Start targeting that,
The nuking,
the nuking.
can you cut them real short first or something?
We do, we cut them anyway in order to do it.
I would hope so, yeah.
That's right,
okay.
the woodies get cut down to, 6 inches to a foot.
Okay.
Painted on. And in preparation for, certainly an initial planting this fall. We'd like to be well organized to look at Mother
You bring
Nature.
in the topsoil.
That's right.
In the fall.
All coming in at the
Okay.
appropriate time to get ready for a fall planting, which is nice because there can be a little bit of a dormant planting component to it too, which is why we use the cover crop.
Yeah, good.
So in the back area, lots of clethra?
In this area, we can shift a bunch of them back over to here, yeah.
I think keeping the front area relatively low is probably going to work
No, look,
best,
I'm gonna look at it more
because that's where
closely
there was
because
most of it.
my concern all along has been anything we try and turn into a shrubland has to be maintainable if we can't run mowers over it.
And I don't know if that will be, because as you know, the boundary has the most, obnoxious invasives possible there. And if you plant nice, happy little native plants in front of them, they're just going to be taken over.
So we'll look more closely at it, but we can certainly get a stand of them in here.
So
You'll find out that was not excavated, it's not open, it's been growing in, a lot of invasives and bittersweet and other things, and then you got the big mature trees. So this is not like you see in the front. It's a different area.
you're talking about the back part?
Now, I'm talking about that notch area.
This area here.
No,
Yeah.
down further even.
This one?
No,
Down here?
down further. Down,
Left?
Down.
down. That, you just went over it. Right there to
Talking
your
about the
right.
crossing area?
That area there was not touched relative to,
Has not been touched yet.
has not been touched
Okay.
based on digging it out and everything like that.
I see.
It might have been touched and removing some of the invasives, but the plants, some of them probably didn't, well,
So that's right, so when I wandered in there, you can actually see where they had cut some of the invasives, but they weren't
Right.
using herbicides originally, right?
I think originally they did.
Oh, they were, okay.
That's part of my
Yeah, there were
concern.
some that I found tags, remnants of, somebody went out and said, to kind of the crew.
That's part of my concern.
So that's right, you can see that in this little area, and I think we can sort that out and see what's coming back.
Yeah,
But
that
some of
little
that
area
was
is-
cut and presumably painted with herbicide.
yeah, that little area is a little bit bigger than what you think it is, so.
I mean, again,
Like I said, the invasives were removed in October of 2016, and the plantings were almost immediate, even though I wanted them to wait until the spring. And when they were removing some of the plants, they cut that whole big chunk of the plethora.
well, we're going to put something back.
So then, what's the final, in summary? Like Bill often will do, in summary, this is what we're going to do.
I will summarize.
You will summarize, okay.
In summary, what we are going to do is begin eradicating the non-native invasive species throughout the rest of the summer, we'll call it, in preparation for a fall planting on these areas, which would include bringing in a proper topsoil for the 2 buffer zone restoration areas along the roadside, okay? At the same time, we will be addressing primarily the mugwort around the retention basin and watching how that's growing on its own, while at the same time, and we might even try some seeding in there earlier than fall, just because it's smaller areas and it's already vegetated.
Were you thinking of spraying that mugwort immediately?
Yes, if it hasn't been cut yet, depending on, we may cut it first,
Okay,
get it shorter in stature.
And nothing's been touched in there.
no.
Not this year, it was cut the end of last year, but,
Because it's starting to grow some nice cattail in there.
yeah.
And that, if it were sprayed, might affect them.
Yeah, no, in the retention area, we have the luxury, it's much smaller, there is a lot more herbaceous vegetation. We have the luxury of mowing first, flushing them out, and then targeting smaller stature invasives. Okay? And that is something we do. So, to continue the summary, preparation, the remainder of this growing season, trying to remove the invasives as best as possible, in preparation for bringing in to final grade the topsoil, ready for planting this fall with the seed mixes for the buffer zone and the spot seeding within the retention basin shoulders.
Bill?
So that we would, I'm sorry, let me finish. So that the idea would be next spring would be the first visible growing season, right?
Is the retention area going to be the homeowners association maintenance?
No, town will own that. But we could put that maintenance part of it into that. We could put it in there.
That'd be good.
That's easy.
And what was
There's
it?
there's no maintenance for that basin too. It's a wet basin. It's not like,
Right.
it's not like an infiltration basin where they gotta keep it working. It's,
No, but based on his suggestions about mowing or, having a control of what you want to come back.
right. No, I agree. We can just we'll just build that into the,
And it will,
The
yeah,
O&M
Bill and I-
plan
Bill and I
and
will,
all those.
we'll work on an O&M for all of this at the end that gets turned over. And that is only for, as Bill pointed out, in that retention basin, because it is a wet pond basin, we're only talking about the upper shoulder. Everything below the break and slope is actually pretty good.
yeah.
And mostly native,
Yeah.
everything you want to be there.
So you'll concentrate your shrubby materials in the triangular area up near the wetlands in the detention basin, the clethra, low-bush blueberry, no swamp azalea, witch hazel maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Use sheep laurel,
Sure.
sheep laurel, things that that can go either way.
Sheep laurel's it's too finicky.
Is it?
It's finicky,
Really?
yeah,
Okay,
it's finicky.
good to know.
Wants to grow where sheep laurel grows, if you don't see sheep laurel around.
What's that now?
If it wants to grow where you, kind of an area because of the soils where you see sheep laurel,
Yeah.
It seems to have an affinity for particular soil composition,
They
so.
seem to be one of the things to fill in a gravel pit area sometimes. But, good.
Okay, great. Jane, you and I can work out how we can extend the order, paying additional fees and whatever needs to be done. We don't need to talk about it here.
No. Now, what about, when would you be planting?
That's all you, Bill, you got it. Thank
When
you.
would you be planting your woody materials? You didn't, you left that out.
Good point, thank you. Depending on how we feel things are, where things are at this fall and the timing of the seeding, possibly this fall, possibly. If not, they're small enough, if not the following spring, early
And
spring.
a bunch were planted in there. I don't know, they're probably all overtaken at this point.
I mean,
I've got pictures,
I don't see,
actually.
other than a little bit on this side, I don't see any remnants of newly planted plants.
Here, you can have a copy of this if it would be helpful. It's the representations that were made and then the most important parts.
Thank you. So, fall or spring, on those,
For what?
on the woodies.
I don't know, which would you recommend?
If all is perfect, a fall planting is not too bad, given there's no irrigation out there.
Oh, yeah. No irrigation out there?
No irrigation
That could
anywhere.
be problematic. Oh, well.
And if you relied on Mother Nature this spring, you were in trouble for planting.
Yeah, it's true.
Fall is a little more forgiving, for that reason, because we can go into dormancy. Spring is the opposite, and so plants start to get active and without the resources.
No,
So
fall might not be a
fall is
bad
little-
idea.
Fall is a little better that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, the spring would be way, sure. Cool.
Okay.
Just
Thank
one
you very
last, you gonna notify Jane when you're gonna stop doing this, or start spring, or anything like that?
Well, especially for the knotweed, I want to see how you do it.
So the knotweed we won't waste
That'll
our
be the
time
fall,
touching it till
once
till
it's
it's in
flowering,
flower.
right.
Till it's in flower,
Right.
Most of it's already chopped up.
right. And that's the other, exactly. So don't keep chopping knotweed thinking you're winning. You're only promoting it. Let it grow, don't touch it, wait till September, and in goes the nuking.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Commission.
Do you
Thank
have
Bill,
the,
for the technology.
Jane, 31 Granite Street, do you have the partial?
I have it. I haven't gone out to look at it. I drive by it here and there. I just told Scott Martiniak that once it has been mown a couple times, it should be fine.
Okay.
I don't expect any problems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to make it subject to my review and having it mown twice.
Okay.
It said it was mown 3 times.
He said it was mown 3 times?
It looks
I
like it's
missed
ready to
that.
be mowed again.
What's that?
It looks like it's ready to be mowed again.
Okay, cool. Should be fine then. Complete certification.
On that one, right?
Was that?
It's
They
the,
redid the house on
Yeah.
that and
They
put a
built
new
it.
septic system, they had to put it in the back.
It's a 2-family, yeah.
Yeah.
I drove by it day before yesterday, yeah. It's nice and close to the road.
Okay,
And they get a lot of money.
yes, I don't know how they got it in there, but anyway, somebody want to make a motion to sign yeah,
Certificate of compliance.
certificate of compliance for 157608.
I'll make the motion to sign a certificate of compliance for 157608.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Take one.
Aye.
Opposed? I mean, signature spots, Jane.
5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm counting. Where'd it go? I passed it to
You
you.
gave it to me, yeah, so there's
It's for you.
7 spots here.
It's for me. 7 spots.
Yeah, well, yeah,
There usually are.
Right, so, okay, so you're okay to sign this now, yes?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Take one of these and pass it on, please, as this as well.
Didn't you just, oh, no, you didn't, it's a different one, okay.
They'll look equally awful.
Take one of each and pass them down.
What is this now? Camp Road.
He's disappeared. Where'd he go? Talking to Bill? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you get sworn in?
Yes, I did. I did.
Says just Jim?
Jim and Jeff are needed.
How does it work with, like, so each year, do we have to get renewed, or does it just happen automatically? or-
Every 3 years.
Every time you get reappointed,
Yeah.
Okay.
if you get reappointed.
So you can be asked not to be reappointed?
Yeah, you can.
Ken?
You can. Mr. Triani?
Oy.
Maybe he plans to hire this other company to help him.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So, we have a cease and desist on you, sir. Drag one of those.
Yep.
That mic over. Just a quick question. Have you watched our last meeting when you said you would do, you wanted to, for your foundation, we initially said don't backfill, but you said no, it's for safety reasons you wanted to backfill. But that was all you were going to do until the sequence of events happened. So unfortunately, just started building.
Okay, so all I was going to do in the site work aspect was backfill. I wasn't going to continue with the pool, the retaining wall, and the walks in the in the back. That's the way I understood it.
Go back and watch the tape, if you would. You guys have to miss. Okay.
Me?
Yeah, I thought you started to say something.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Does anyone agree with me as to what our,
Yeah, the restoration was supposed to be done before you started building.
That's not how I understood. I understood that I wasn't going to do any more site work because I felt as though that the framing wasn't going to impinge on the wetlands. I mean, I obviously wouldn't have started framing if it was obvious that we were doing the framing. It wasn't.
but we didn't want you even to backfill, and you rightly pointed out that it was a hazard if, a concrete wall without backfilling.
Correct.
But you said nothing about building or construction.
That was not my intent. I was not going to do any more site work, was what I had thought. Moving of more dirt, and I, when Mr. Dalton came out there, I had said to him, we are not doing any more site work, and I had said, we're moving the machines out now until we can do the restoration, which we've been doing all along for several weeks now with Carol, the consultant, which has become a daunting task.
It's not easy.
No.
We told you it wouldn't be easy.
I just never thought that pulling wisteria would be, it
You
is,
saw us pulling the one, and it went on for about 100 feet.
well, yeah, but it was, I didn't think that, I mean, I was just saying that we've cut some 3 weeks ago that's already starting to grow back.
That's why it's invasive. It's
I
obnoxious.
totally understand the invasive
You
word
do now.
I absolutely
They had some in
do.
Wellesley when I was agent there. They were literally this large around, and they were pulling down oak trees.
Well, getting to that, we just had this conversation, Carol and I, on Thursday, of like, she goes, we may have to relook at this and introduce herbicide. She said it to me on Thursday. We're having trouble keeping up with it. We got the plants ready, but she says, I don't know if we should do it yet. And I said, we're going to have to talk to Jane about that because, we are on schedule to try to get some plants in. And she said, she sent me an email saying, here's the ones that we can try to get in, but you're going to have to try to keep up with the wisteria.
Well, that's why I
It's-
mentioned the hay-scented fern, because they are also invasive. They're natives, but they invade, and they're very pretty when they invade.
Well, so what we came up with the other day is like, let's get a few areas of where we think we have, I don't want to say we have it under control because the wisteria is tough. It grows so fast. We're going to plant some of the things and see how it goes.
Didn't we find that a lot of the wisteria was actually going to be underneath the foundation and et cetera? It was the 25-foot restoration area didn't seem to have as much as the more up area. And I thought, well, if it's going to be buried, that could be a good thing.
No, in that 25 no touch, there is a lot of it. It just keeps going. The first marking, she counted 270 flags. We took care of that. She just came back.
That wasn't just wisteria, though.
No, but the majority it is. Absolutely.
That's why I wanted you to get rid of it.
Well, we're trying, but I think,
And I said, I don't know where this came from. And when I was at Alice Bradley Lane at 14 or 18 or whatever it is, where they just were doing some restoration work because they'd gone into an area they weren't supposed to. And I was doing my dog and pony show and pointing out all the really beautiful natives. I'm like, oh, look, there's a wisteria vine. And we started pulling, and it went all across everything. And then it landed up over here, and it was really thick, and it looked like it was going to flower. I said, well, chop it all back so that you can enjoy the flower, and then just get it out of there.
well,
'Cause it's tough.
Speaking of that, she also suggested that we give it, she feels as though it's going to flower in a week.
Oh, does it have buds already?
She says, let's wait a week to 10 days. If it flowers, she said, we may be more successful.
Yeah, it puts a lot of their juice out into the flowers.
Listen, I'm getting an education on wisteria.
Well, that's what we want.
All right.
That's what we
So-
want. But see why we put the carrot and stick approach, because it's not an easy task.
No, it's not an easy task. I'm telling you right now that we're going to be dealing with this all summer, so that's why she suggested that we get a good area, plant some of the plants that we have on our list, and see how that goes. But I feel like she was pushing more doing the major plantings in the fall. However, she says you're going to be out here all summer keeping up with this.
It's
And
an
I said,
idiot's
"That's fine."
delight. I mean, I'm always out weeding, and these invasives
well,
are ridiculous. Idiot's delight is what it is, I'm telling you.
So, my plan with this is to keep going. It's my house. We have tar paper on the roof right now. We're gonna continue, not do any site work. I don't need to do any more site work, but continue with this program. It's gonna take till the end of the summer to get it according to that's the
expert.
plan. It's,
Well, I don't know how much clearer I could have been in the order of conditions, and you signed your little statement saying, "I've read and understand." I mean, if you
I
look
said,
at the findings
I-
section, and if you look at the step-by-step construction sequence section, I know it's boring,
no.
but
My understanding of it, the way I look at it, though, site work is usually
hear what you're saying.
the issue of conservation.
I always
That's
say
it.
shovel the
And I
always say shovel
protected
the
it.
soil.
Protected it. I went over it with Rich when he went out. I did everything that we were supposed to do, and then some. We did on the erosion control and all of it. That's why I did it that way. I wasn't, we weren't trying to hide anything there by framing. We just were, obviously, this was not an intentional, we're just moving ahead and held the site work up while we work on the restoration. That's exactly what we did. I've
Well,
done this
I do-
before. We did it on East Street. We did it on 48 East Street. We did the whole restoration the same way. Remember when you came down? We put all
but
these plants.
this-
I know how this goes.
But we requested that you do not start any construction at all until the restoration was completed. So all this talk you're giving us isn't relevant. It was clear in the discussions that we had that you were not to do any construction. That's not site work, construction.
And in the
That's
our problem here is that in the order of conditions, there's 5 different areas that was very specifically stated, and that you agreed upon it.
He played devil's advocate, too. He said, "Well, did you write it in the order?" And I said, "I believe I did, and that's why I put together my manager's report specifically about it, because I always think, did I?" And I did. And you signed your little sheet, like, it's saying you'd understood this, and
I still do. I still feel like,
That's the reason why I asked you if you'd watched the video of the previous meeting when we were discussing it.
we have watched it, yeah.
You have watched it?
Absolutely. I watched
you
it
have?
after the last meeting.
So under special conditions of the order of conditions, attachment A, number 26, the restoration area, applicant shall complete the restoration area activities prior to commencing house construction activities.
Right, I'm
Number
sorry.
27,
Read that
following
again?
construction.
David, I'm sorry. Could you read that again?
Number 26, restoration area. The applicant shall complete restoration area activities prior to commencing house construction activities. The number 27 says, following construction of the restoration area and before beginning house construction, restoration specialist shall certify to the agent that the area has been constructed in compliance with this order. No house construction work may commence until the restoration area has been approved by the agent. Another, after the findings, there was another one, number 4. Prior to commencing house construction activities, the applicant shall first complete the restoration area task as described in the approved documents, and then receive conservation agent's written approval for completed restoration work.
and
Thing
even
is,
if it
that-
wasn't.
thing is that
complete.
I think if you were having some issues about the restoration timing, that the opportunity to talk to Jane and say, come on down, we've been trying to do this, okay? You've backfilled the foundation, you created your safety needs there. But here's our problem relative to the restoration. You, Carol, Jane, and maybe somebody else from the commission probably could have tried to work something out without violating
The order.
the order.
Okay, so,
So now our situation is, you have commenced, so you are in violation of the order.
okay, so how can we move forward to where I can continue to do both simultaneously? Because it's gonna take, it's gonna take some time to do the restoration. Just taking care of the invasives, I feel as though the planting, which I talked to Carol about, she will come and assist us in planting. She wants to coordinate it. She's moved to Rockport now, so it's gonna be, but she still will come at least once or twice a week if I need her to.
Part of what she can do is
She
teach
says
you.
it's gonna stretch out.
Yeah, well, it's going to,
It's
and we
gonna
knew that
stretch
from the
out. I mean,
start.
we thought that we could probably get rid of the wisteria in a weekend. Not a chance.
Well, clearly from the rereading it, I'm just listening. You're right. But the purpose, it sounds like the purpose of the way it was written was to ensure that Dawn moved forward with the work and didn't just kind of blow it off. And I think, from what I'm hearing, and I'm not physically there, but I know you guys have been there multiple times, he's moving forward with the work. He's doing it. He's not dogging it. He's hired not your consultant, but consultant that you guys like and use. And so, how do we move forward? That's the question. I mean, he's doing what you want him to do, and it will just become a argument. What can we do to move forward?
Well, at one point, you mentioned that you would think it was appropriate to withhold a building permit if the restoration wasn't done. Now, that's not something we really can do. I mean, we don't want to pull the building department into it. They have enough work to do.
I said that?
You did.
Did I?
At one point. Yeah.
About this project?
We went back and forth, and it was, it was confusing, and I was looking at my notes and Diana's minutes, which she probably transcribed, and it's like, ugh, it's hard.
Well, maybe what's happened is, and again, I was kind of brought in the middle. I'm not making excuses. But I think what we thought is it was going to be, I would have never said yes. I would have never told my client, yeah, wait till the end of November to start construction. I would have just said, no, we can't accept that. So I think what we thought, I'm trying to remember, is it was going to go a lot quicker. We were going to have this done in a month or two. Yeah, quickly, and then get into it. And it sounds like we grossly underestimated the amount of work necessary to do this eradication, which I'm getting a huge education on from the last two projects. So I apologize.
Well, we're trying to do it in a good way. It's just hard when it is hard to understand. It's hard to find someone who understands it, like Carol. I looked for years before I found her for the Learning Center, and she gets it.
No question about it.
And I think that's why the commission asked you several times, do you have a contract with her? Is she going to continue to do it? Are you contracted with her? And I think that she has started, she's done as much as she could. You should have waited for her to say, we've done as much as we could right now, Jane, so why don't you just throw him a bone and let him start doing the stick work?
Well, as far as the contract goes, she was contracted within days after that meeting.
Well, you said she
didn't-
was. You said she was.
Yeah, oh, she was, she definitely was.
You weren't really,
And you-
really
You
definitive
saw the
about it.
emails, right? She's, the first couple of,
I never saw
right
the
after we did the
contracting.
site, right after we did the site visit.
Right.
She sent you, she copied you on an email.
She did, and that was because of the herbicides, and she said, she talked to me about it, she says, Jane, I have a private company, I don't have a license, I
Right, well,
can't do it without.
all three of us were out there that day.
Yeah, and then you ended
said
it
you were gonna
with-
come and watch me do it, and with the cotton ball, and then she called and said, whoa, wait a minute, none of us, we can't do that, you're the only one that can do it, being myself.
Or a
being
professional licensed applicator.
And then she came back and she said, no, don't do that, because she thought I was, she.
Well, we went back and forth on a lot of things.
I
And
know we
then,
did.
then you ended up saying, Carol and I have decided we're not going to do any of the herbicides.
Well, because it's in the order.
That's a boilerplate part of the order.
Okay, well, she said that to me, that's.
It is a boilerplate that we add, and how can we make sure that that's done even? But, to your point, you're not doing any other soil work, and I usually say shovel to soil, but, what do you think? If Carol can say what's going to happen next and in what time frame and how you're going to do these things?
I mean,
It's
I'm
the
not sure
principle.
if she,
Well,
in principle, I'm not sure if she realized how much the length for the wisteria was going to take.
She probably knew. She's dealt with wisteria before.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't specifically.
I'm not going to speak for her, but she says this is a little bit more than I thought as she started to uncover it.
Well, you need to get out
Especially-
there with your bingo dauber and your glyphosate, and we'll watch you and cheer you on. Seriously, I think that's probably the best way to do it.
It is the only way. I think it's the only way.
I mean, if you're going to continue with this and do what she recommended and the plan.
Absolutely. She's coming back out this week.
But why couldn't you have called me? Because this puts us all in a stupid position.
You want to be, every time she comes out, I can give you a call.
Well, no, it was about starting the construction.
Starting the stick work.
That's what we're talking about.
No, I understand.
It's the principle of that.
Yeah. So,
It's the,
That was not the intent. I had stopped the site work. That's it.
what do you think, commissioners? We don't want to be unreasonable. We just want to make sure things are
No,
done. And
that's
a lot
fine.
of
And you
times
know what?
people don't get
And,
it.
I don't have a problem coming back the next meeting and report back. Carol will come if she, I don't want to make her come back.
Can we get a plan as
We
to
have-
when he's going to start doing the restoration work versus
well, he's
construction?
already started. the
Well, he started it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
I
an
have-
ongoing thing.
So going forward right
You're
now,
going parallel.
she just came again. I have probably another 150. She did a few other areas to cut. I probably got halfway through those. And then she just spoke with her. She said, our plan now is to order. She sent me an email on Thursday of what to order, what she thinks will be okay to plant now.
Yeah, especially
But
down
she
by
said
the
the
water.
majority, just as the last gentleman said, she felt because of the timing of it, she said you may want to push this a little bit to the fall, but you're going to have to keep up with the wisteria and the other plants.
Well, that's the most
so that
important
we can
thing.
do it. Oh, it's.
I mean, with the Lane Learning Center, I swear, it's no fun for the people who do the landscaping, including me. It's mostly weeding for the first few years. I've been weeding my house for 20 years, and it's finally starting to look great.
I think you might have knew what I was up against. No, it's tough.
I did. That's why I wanted to make sure that you got started, you had your foot in the door, and you had a plan to proceed, and you were really going to do it.
We've been out there doing it. My girlfriend and I, we've been out there doing it. You met her, she's been out there. It's tough. It's
Idiot's
tough. That's
delight.
what I'm saying to you.
Idiot's
It's tough.
delight. That-
You want a schedule now?
I'd like to see something that acknowledges what we've discussed
Do you have
here.
Carol put something together, an email to you and CC it to
I
Jane?
will CC you. How about if I CC between us, when she's coming down, I'll just say to Carol,
We
make
can
sure
all
we
talk.
CC.
I can run out there and talk to you guys if I'm
Yep.
not in.
And her, as she sits there tomorrow, what does she see the timeline going forward?
Yeah.
It's going to change, because it's going to change on weather, but she just needs to keep it updated, and you've got to keep Jane updated.
Okay.
So she needs to be in the loop, and then Jane could get it out to the commission.
How about this? The restoration specialist shall certify to the agent that the area not necessarily has been constructed in compliance, but is ongoing work, and these are the plans. You know, this is the date for this is the date for
Yes.
that. We are currently ordering X number of plants to place in X place.
She made some recommendations on a couple changes to me of certain plants versus small trees.
I think she's probably liking my hay-scented ferns at this point.
I don't remember exactly what they were, but she said she feels as though they'll do better because of some of the other invasives that are there.
Well, see, she's smart, and she gets it, and she knows that you plant based on the soils and the conditions. And if those invasives are doing things because there's a lot of light and such, perhaps that's the
She
problem.
also mentioned that some of the soils may not, or some of the plants may not like that soil. That's another reason why she has suggestions to change a few. But she did say she would run them by you first.
That's why using native plants that are in the general vicinity is usually a good thing, a way to go. So the clethra, sweet pepper bush, the ferns. Your ferns, you'd love them, they're pretty. And they are invasive, but they out-invade the invasives, really. And we've got to try to keep it simple, stupid. It's just not that easy.
And do we have like an insurance that you won't proceed with any other part of the construction without notifying Jane and having her go out? Like, I don't want you to decide like it's gone for, we've done as much restoration as we can, so I'm just gonna start with the rest of the site work.
Yes, he just said he wasn't going to do the site
We
work.
will not do
How
any
about
much.
you send me a little note saying I'm not going to do any more site work?
The only
minute,
site
suggestion.
work that is needed, that is not in, that is in the 100-foot buffer zone is 4 sonotubes, 1 foot by 4 foot deep. That's it. And nothing else has to be done. The pool, the walk, the retaining wall does not need to be done at this time.
I'd like to just make a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because of what was written in the order, it was very specific, and you did agree upon it, that we stop the construction for at least a day, that this can be resolved tomorrow between the emails, talking with Carol, you agreeing to something or some type of plan, putting this together and get it to Jane the next day, because it's going to take you a little while to, both of you, and then, what type of plants should you put in there now and hold off on the others? This is nothing that's going to occur in 1 or 2 hours. At least it'll take you a day, come up with a plan to be approved. It's a modified restoration plan due to the conditions. And when you look at the timing, when you first started with this, it's,
It's way,
you lost some good timing, probably keeping ahead on getting some of the invasives. It wouldn't have been a good spring anyways for planting, the way it was going.
right.
But I think.
I will,
we
yes, I
have
get
an
where you're
order-
going.
We have this order with these conditions.
I will take tomorrow and put this together and get it to you.
And no work on
I
your,
won't
no
have
work
anybody-
on your
I'll-
addition.
I
I think
will stop.
that's kind of like a nice
Yeah.
in-between where you feel it,
Yep,
and we know that you mean it.
yep. Okay.
And you get
I
your
will
duckies
take
in a
tomorrow, I
row.
won't have anybody there tomorrow. I will get that done, because I do have a roof that does not have shingles right now on the existing house, but it's tar papered. I'll take care of that. I'll make sure that gets us through tomorrow.
Okay.
That'd be cool, I think. Thank you. I hate these things.
So let's recap.
Yes, thank you.
Make sure we all understand.
Yeah.
So Dawn's gonna get in touch with Carol. She's gonna come up with a schedule, including timing and plantings. It's gonna be moving because
Yeah.
of whatever, but that's gotta go to Jane. And then Don is gonna stop construction on his building while he gets that done. Be no
On
mo-
his personal house,
On his
roof.
house.
on his house roof, not the addition roof.
He
Say
can
that
work
again?
on the roof on the current house.
You can fix
Yeah,
your,
I mean, they
But not the
literally
new
took the whole, that was another thing, it was not what we expected on the existing house in the attic, or whatever, so we had to take the entire roof off, not the shingles, I mean the roof.
Roof, oh, wow.
So we reframed the whole roof, and it's just tar papered at this time. So, but they can't roof shingle it until the addition roof attaches to it. But we can deal with that, I can get rid of that, I can stop tomorrow and get this done so that we can continue with it.
Good, I appreciate that.
and going forward, discussions, you need to keep Jane in the loop, discussions between you and Carol on any changes or modifications to schedule, planting, anything like that. And then any work being done out there, you're gonna tell Jane so she can decide whether or not she's gonna go out to visit or not, right? You wanna know if work is being done out there.
Yeah.
Whether you go out or not, that's up to you.
What's that?
Whether you go out or not is up to you.
Right,
But you wanna know when it's being done.
Right.
So you have the option.
yeah, that'd be great. And actually, I'd like to watch him with his little dauber and his glyphosate.
Hey, Rich,
I'll cheer you
want
on.
to be part of this chain? And
Well,
working with Jane?
Well, Jane can send out the email. I
Yeah,
wanna-
I think because he's been on site a couple of times.
Yes,
I've been there
yeah.
a couple of times.
So have
But
I.
I think this could be something that Rich could help Jane out in monitoring and working together what's being talked about. Because he understands pretty much what our obligations are.
Well, he went out and helped me, and then
Got in trouble.
he looked like the bad guy, yeah. But I appreciate it was him instead of me.
Certainly listening to that number, reading that. Be clear.
I'll give you a copy of my little history thing. You know, I make sure I've got all my, I remember.
And this is June 9th, where she sent this to me, I will forward this to you.
Excellent.
The changes.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, I spend half my life
Having
going
to do
back
it.
and,
You can see with everything I Googled here, University of Florida, experts on wisteria, I've been trying to find an easier way.
well,
to
maybe
do
you can help me with that one.
It's
You know,
not-
what about things like vinegar and salt?
Oh no, I've been trying it on poison ivy, it hasn't been helping.
Don't ask me.
Vinegar, salt, and soap, maybe, to attach it? But if you want to see what I was talking about, you can have this.
Can I grab that?
Because I like to double check and triple check and make sure I'm not speaking out of turn.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry we kept you so late.
Be in touch tomorrow.
Thanks.
All righty. Thank you. Good, have a good evening.
Defeated myself.
What's
Thank
left
you.
of it?
Guys, now quickly,
More paper.
Oh,
more
well,
paper. Just quickly,
Oh, this one, yeah.
that's what you say, someone else said, Rich said, well, you know, maybe it's not a bad idea. And the thing is, I say, you don't need to camp out there. We can let you camp on the water by the dam, and you can take your little boat out there and have day trips. You
My
can
own-
be there all day.
Yeah, so my concern with it is, I mean, it is a great idea, it's nice, but if we do it
If you do it
once,
for one,
yeah. you do
then
it for-
Pandora's
done.
box is open, and, oh, but she did it another time, so.
it's done.
As much, like, I belong to Troop 32. I understand what they want to do, but from sitting here, I would be, I would be remiss to, I would not want to open that box. I would not want to go there.
I don't either. I
That
mean,
was my
I've got.
concern too, is if we say yes once.
No.
Yeah, you say once, and then it's never going to end.
Yeah, I feel like I was too much of a stinker saying you have to go into that old house lot to do your camping. Because when I went out to the place that they used to camp, it didn't look bad. I mean, there was a pretty good buffer, and as long as they don't cut any of the trees and the bushes, that's good. And they can make day trips to the Blueberry Island and do all the things that they said they were going to do, and I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
I know that there are people that camp there occasionally, and I think
Yeah.
they're people from the lake, maybe, I don't know.
Yes, they are, definitely.
And, well, you know, I can't be every place at
Oh,
every
yeah,
time,
there's
but
no
but-
way you can,
like you said, you let one.
yeah.
That's why there's 3 canoes and a flatboat down by the reservoir coming in from the north side.
Are they
That
still there?
subdivision.
Are they still there?
Last time I saw, there were at least 3.
I've never been to Blueberry Island. I'd like to go. I'd like to see what it's all about.
Technically, it's supposed to be Heaton now.
It's what?
That's what was agreed upon when he passed away.
Eaton Island?
To do what? Oh, it's supposed to be eaten
It's supposed to be.
So, no, except please visit it for the day, and what about, and no campfires though, right?
No,
No campfires. That's not a good precedent.
no.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I hate making these decisions because I don't live in town. It's your decision, not mine, really.
I'll get Jonathan Trudell calling me, don't worry.
Well,
Anything else?
You should make sure to say that it was a really nice plan that they wrote out. They clearly
Really
put a lot
nice
of thought
plan.
into it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
yes. Well, I talked to him about it, and I said, you know, we disallowed Blueberry Island and the waterfront area because they're sensitive, and I said, you can ask anything, and the commission can decide, but I don't think that they'll go for it.
No.
Do we,
But that's a good point. I'll tell them,
Do
thanks
we
for the
need an
point.
official vote on that?
It wouldn't hurt.
Somebody want to make a motion to
abstain.
deny the use of Blueberry Island for the camp?
Is it Blueberry Island or is it the mainland too?
No, it's Blueberry Island that they want.
No, how about the mainland? Yeah, too. I've been thinking that it wasn't good to camp there and have latrine toilets and all that sort of stuff. But when I went out there recently, it doesn't look like it's that big of a deal. Not the peninsulas, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But the place that they used to do it just before the
Close to the dam, yeah, right
just
before
before the
the
dam?
Yeah, on the left-hand
Yeah,
side,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a pretty nice spot. And
Yeah.
they can look out at the water, they can go lie on the dam and look at the stars, you
Yeah.
know?
And there's a fire pit there too.
Yeah.
Well,
And a bench.
I think I might have kind of thrown it around.
Well,
There probably is another one, though. Is there
Yeah.
still?
There is one, yeah.
Okay.
It's overseas sits the water and the dam is right down here. When you come off the trail,
Right.
the road
I
on
did
the
check
left.
it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And sometimes on a Monday, it's usually filled with beer cans. That one and the other one at the other peninsula.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, to no camping on Blueberry Island, visit it to your heart's content, and
Yeah.
please do your plant ID and invasive and trash cleanup. Thank you very much, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And if you like to not camp on the inside field area, then go to the old camp spot
Yeah.
near the dam.
Yeah.
Everyone agree?
Everyone agrees.
All right. Informal vote? Vote? We'll
You
call it a
going to
vote.
that meeting on Wednesday?
Jane,
Yeah.
do we want to move forward with the map for the Lane property? Did you get the email?
Oh, shoot, that's right. Meaning we pay for it?
Right, out of the, it's what David, you have no email, so I couldn't send it to you.
Right.
I
when
get so
did
many
you
emails
send it?
that they get buried and I
don't
can't, I
look at
forget
my
about them.
Mail today at all.
No, it was a while ago, it was a couple of weeks ago.
How much was
Oh.
it, like 350, 360?
I want to say the large one is, they only had one bill for the 2 that they did. Large one, I'm going to guess, is going to be maybe 600 or 800, if that.
And put it at the Lane Learning
I
Center?
can check the email again. Yeah, this would be for the Lane Center. Yeah, they already
Guys,
have.
if you want, you could use your conservation fund monies, which is basically being called the Hawking Fund right now.
Okay. Yeah.
If we don't have anything left in the budget, which it's kind of late in the season, in the year to do that.
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, I'll dig up the email and figure what the
Okay.
cost was.
Okay.
So we're not going to worry about the year-end budget?
Yeah, do the
So
Hawking,
time
just the
sensitive is not-
conservation
is not-
fund. It's,
okay.
yeah, it's time
Okay.
sensitive. I'm not sure how that works anyways, but yeah.
So I'll authorize them to go ahead and make the large, I'll let everyone know what the price is.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, because that's really pretty nice.
Because I think most of the money is on the foundation, because it goes in, I assume, concrete? and
Yes.
It's a
yeah,
steel
yeah,
and...
Yeah, no, it's a good sturdy structure.
How big?
It'd be the size of the one that, that's at Edwards Road. Because he,
2 by 3,
yeah.
maybe a little bit
that's
bigger than a 2 by 3.
Yeah,
Because the one at Kersey is
Point.
smaller.
oh, it is smaller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Larger then, depending on price?
Yeah, I think the two of them, I want to say that they spent under $1,100 for the two of them.
If we put it close enough to the Learning Center, it should be safe.
Yeah. Oh, the way that's
Well, the
built.
way they put it in,
Oh, yeah.
we'll have them do it the same way, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me.
Anything else?
Do you want to cancel the next meeting?
Didn't they do that?
Not yet. That's June 27th. Bob's not available, and there's nothing on the agenda.
I will also be away.
All right, Bob and Peter aren't available, and there's nothing on
And
the
I think
agenda.
will I be
I
away?
will
No,
be
I won't
just
be away.
getting home the night before, so I'll be happy not to be.
Where are you going?
Did Bill Buckley just ask to continue to that one, though?
Yeah, I thought
Bill
we were
Buckley
okay.
will be the same place that Bob is, so he's not going to be here
I
either.
think we canceled the July one.
Bill has to continue to July.
Okay, good, good, good.
July
Yeah.
28th or something.
So cancel,
Is it July
My dates.
25th?
what's the date?
Yeah.
June 27th.
June 27.
Yep. Good,
Sounds good to me.
sounds good to me.
So is July 25th also canceled?
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, that one is canceled. Me and Jane are gone.
What's
Yeah,
that?
but you guys can run the meeting and take notes and
that's the one.
everything.
That's the one that-
July 27th, July 25th, we canceled a while ago, because me and Jane both aren't here.
Okay,
He did, yeah, okay,
Okay.
all right, all right.
all right.
So the next one is on the
Well,
11th.
it's going to, let's forget a filing that we have to act on.
You have no one here to open the building.
What are you talking about, on the July one?
July.
Or are you
The
talking about the June
deadline
one?
for the next meeting was today, so if they come tomorrow, it's July 11th.
Okay,
And I already took the other meeting off the schedule.
okay. Oh, you have to take, okay, all right,
You go, girl.
all right. Shall we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, a second?
Second it.
Discussion? Anybody opposed to adjourning?
Heck no.
Okay.